You care about signs.
I've cared about for the last 20 years.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So now we can have some neon lights lit up, look like cabana trees or
Yeah.
palm trees, but they're really going to be dopes. What do you call it?
That's a great idea, new sign bylaw. I'll go along with you there.
What a real sign by law.
Like Myron said, but they've been enforced the old one.
Well, they do enforce it when they feel like it. I know Ed's Weenies gets yelled at every time something comes up, if they can go after that and go after other people. What's it called?
Thank you.
Okay,
Patriots, do your job, is that what it was? Do your job.
so if we can please remember to be kind, be polite, and be respectful tonight, that would be wonderful.
We're gonna have a group hug too?
Sure,
You're gonna erase that or mine?
don't touch that.
Somebody wrote that, did you write that?
I did.
I did. It's too high for me.
You wrote
I can't
that?
reach it.
No way. You got better writing than that.
I don't know. That must have been from master plan stuff last night. Or the night before.
Either way, it's there, so I thought I'd mention it.
Right.
Proposed agenda for tonight's planning board meeting, 6:30, board business, bills and payroll, minutes, any public input, and then we'll do, talk about planning board regulations and special permit application forms. We've already addressed the bills and payroll.
Thank
I
you.
think everybody is signed.
Right, and then actually, the other thing that you signed was a duplicate original for the lot releases on Durkee. It hasn't been recorded yet, so we needed to get that
Okay,
back up to speed.
terrific, thank you. We anticipate the arrival of our fifth member at some point.
Yes, I believe so.
And, let's see, minutes. I had a chance to review. Anybody else?
What'd you think of them?
It's funny, they're more condensed these days.
I think they look much better.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting as informative and progressive, and accept them as written.
So these are the minutes from September 7th, December 7th, and February 1st.
Thank you, God bless myself too. Sweet of you to say.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes from September 7th, December 7th, and February 1st.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
So moved, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In 2.2 minutes, we'll have a A&R discussion on Manchester Drive, 2 new lots. Not quite there yet. I love it.
Yep.
It never happens at the end, we're always behind.
Yep. And the special permit applications for senior residential development and the planning board regulations.
So the special, planning board regulations and a special permit application, we talking about the one for senior residential? Mm-hmm. I thought we went through that one and we're ready to approve.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no issues that I can recall.
There were a few edits, and I'm in the process of making those. I just don't have the final ones for you to look at, but if you will trust me with those changes, if you could approve those, then we can get them published on the website
And
and
get it onto the
officially.
AG, so. I would entertain a motion to approve the senior residential development special permit application as written, to be amended and reviewed by the chair and the vice chair before being sent out.
Publication.
So just email Mark and I for final revisions or final review.
Gee.
You're the vice chair
Oh,
now?
I'm sorry, Jamie.
Oh, is he the chair? You're the chair, right?
Yes, Jamie's not here, so he's the clerk, so until Jamie's here, Mark and I can participate, so. All right,
Thank you. That'll make it easier.
okay. So if anybody wants to make a motion,
I like that motion.
if I can get a second.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, aye, aye.
Thank you.
Planning board regulations, we didn't complete that one yet, right?
Well, you did make some comments on January. I'm working on making those updates, and if you want another shot at them, you could, but I think they're ready to go.
Okay. Why don't you bring it before us? We can have one more look at it.
Okay.
I'm sure they're fine, but at least we can have eyes on it.
Yep, not a problem.
All right. 6:35, A&R for Manchester Drive, 2 new lots.
Gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My attorney, Michael Bonifant.
You are.
Joe Cataldo, 41 Robinson Road. So we put together approximately 6 lots, 3 of which were non-conforming grandfathered lots. And we were able to get a 40,000 square foot lot and a 32,000 square foot lot. It cleans up an area that's been used as a little bit of a junk storage area. There's a shed that'll be taken down, and we'll be building 2 4-bedroom homes.
Just to be clear, for the board, if you're looking at the plot that Madam just passed out, so lot 21 is a grandfathered lot, and lot 17 is a grandfathered lot, in our opinion. See, lot 24, it says 1.27 acres. That's actually incorrect. When our surveyor went out there, found it to be significantly smaller, so it's not a conforming lot to begin with. And so what we've done is make a conforming lot and a grandfathered lot, but then added to that. Now, that's obviously not before you today, whether or not that's grandfathered or not. We're just looking to show that, you know, we do have the actual frontage on a road that can provide vital access. And it should be should be approved as an A&R that way. We have a package to the zoning enforcer seeking the grandfather determination on that lot 21, which would then make the new parcel A grandfathered lot. And it's, again, it'll be only non-conforming, and it's just shy of the 40,000 square feet. We'll have the frontage and area necessary under the bylaws. But again, that's for Mr. Bernier to determine.
It's shy by 5,200 square feet, right? For a conforming lot?
For a conforming lot, yeah.
When you say lot 21, which one are you?
So,
Parcel A, the bottom corner.
Oh,
is
bottom
21.
corner.
yeah, for 1421.
You're saying those 5 lots have never been combined?
No, I've run the titles on all of them. So since 1933, when Warren Smadbeck subdivided all this property in that Long Lake development, parcel 21 actually consists of, I believe, 5 different parcels. Was conveyed out to a Mary Sullivan and then has been held separately ever since. The same for lot 17, 21, U14, 17. Again, though, we're not seeking the grandfather protection on that one because that will be
Well,
conforming.
actually, it is kind of a point, because, as you know, these are the old Smadback lots, and Smadback lots were done before zoning came in, and grandfathering is that you can, if you have 5 contiguous lots that have not been added to or amended in any way since before zoning, your grandfather to build on it. If he adds to these, he takes the grandfathering away. So by him doing this, they're not grandfathered anymore. And by him doing this, then we have to weigh in on whether or not we want to let people who buy the Smadback lots put lots together that are less than 40,000 square feet. So it's kind of it is a big point.
Well, sir, respectfully, I disagree, and as I've gone through the bylaws, it says that you can change, as long as I'm not taking land from a conforming lot and making it a non-conforming lot bigger. So
As soon as you do this, you lose your grandfather. 5 seconds after you do it. That's what happened up on, with Westchester, not Westchester, the road that we built.
Washington Drive.
Washington Drive. As soon as he put the lots together, he lost his grandfathering.
Okay,
This is different.
yeah, I don't know that example, but I can tell you that I've gone through
It's
the
not
bylaws.
different. As soon as he puts them together, he loses his grandfathering.
Okay. Richard, one?
Yeah, this is different, and if there's any question, I think we should refer this to our town council.
That's what,
for
this should
advice.
be decided before it comes to us, is my point.
This,
Why is this different if he connects them and he loses his grandfathering? Why doesn't he lose his grandfathering if he puts these lots together before he gets a determination of the Smadback, which is everybody else has done that? All these little houses that we have in town on the 5 acres were that way before zoning. And the problem we have with our zoning bylaw is, every time it was done back in the 50s and 60s, it was supposed to the new zoning was supposed to supersede the old zoning, and when Phil Russell did it, he actually put the words in to include the old zoning stayed in effect. So we grandfather all the way up until like the 70s, I believe, is when we stopped doing it that way. So everything before 1951 is grandfathered, as long as it's kept that way. We've had 1 million people come in and bring in 8 lots that they bought they put them together, and they can't do it because the 5 original weren't left in its natural state before 1951. As soon as he connects them, and if he's already connected them, he doesn't have any grandfathering anymore, and that's what Roland's gonna rule.
He's saying that 21 and 17 were connected.
And I think the difference here is that we don't own these yet. So what we're looking for, and I don't think that they have merged until such time as we own them and this plan is recorded. So what we're saying is that we would like the plan endorsed A&R, and you can certainly say, you know, we're not endorsing whether or not these lots are buildable. Once the zoning officer says, I agree 21 is a grandfathered lot.
You're gonna lose your grandfathering, is what I just told you, just what happened up in Washington Drive. As soon as he combined them together, went to the registry, combined them together, he lost his grandfathering. And Roland ruled that it wasn't grandfathered anymore. Once you connect one of those 5 lots have to be in you have to get a building permit for those 5 lots before you add to the other lots.
Okay, so you say get the building permit for that one alone.
Well, you probably have to do them all that way, because you have 17s the same way.
Right.
You have the old 5 lots there. And the other problem you're gonna run into is Rosewood Drive is a dirt road.
But we don't even have frontage on Rosewood Drive. We're not-
Well, you have access to come to these lots on Rosewood Drive. Unless you're saying you're gonna come in all of it off of
Yeah,
Manchester.
because we have 150 feet on Manchester, so that's where our access is gonna be.
For one of the lots, not for 2.
No, once it-
The driveways, both of the driveways will be on Manchester Drive.
And the frontage is all on Manchester too?
150 and 240. 240.
Well, we still have to, well, I think Manchester's probably fine from a frontage.
So,
And so I just want to be clear, and I'm not disagreeing with you. What I was looking at, and then the statute states also that non-conforming lots may be changed in size and shape, so long as their change does not increase the frontage area of a conforming lot by reducing the frontage area of a non-conforming lot.
But that's subdivision rules and regs. These predate subdivision rules and regs. As soon as you touch them, you lose your grandfathering. And so then I have to turn you down, because we're not allowed to put SMAD-back lots together unless they're 40,000 square feet. Your one that's 32, I can't endorse that. I could do the other one, but I can't, because once we start doing that, then all those little lots, they're gonna start trying, oh, I only got up to 20,000 square feet, I wanna build a house on it. The SMAD-backs are, only reason they're guaranteed protected is because they predate zoning,
Predate zoning, yeah, I agree with that.
so.
so, that was a great history lesson.
Well, we've been dealing with this for 20-something years. We tried to get rid of the SMAD-back lots 15, 18 years ago, and what we ran up to when we had town council come in and tell us about them was that because when we did our zoning changes, we never wiped out previous zoning the way.
I don't think you can, though.
You can. You can only
If
grandfather for 7 years. Why are these still grandfathered 50 years, 180 years later?
I think that a lot, and I think this is a philosophical discussion, but I think that any lot that was a buildable lot prior to zoning or prior to a zoning amendment that's been not merged or held separate, had been held separately than with another lot, retains the zoning that it had when it was subdivided.
You just answered your own question. So as long as this lot is the way it was before zoning, you have your protection. But once you put them together, you lose your protection. That's exactly.
Well, so that's where I disagree, and in reading in the bylaw saying you can take a non-conforming lot and add to it, but not lose the protected
But
statute.
these predate zoning bylaws. These are standalone. SMAD-back was all over the lake.
Sure, sure.
We bought 4 lots or 5 lots at Leechmere and wherever in Cambridge. Back in the 30s, you could build a house, and that's how they were all built.
Yep.
As long as you kept them in original ownership,
Right.
you could build them, the 5 lots. If you didn't add them to anymore, they were the 5 lots. Then zoning came in, and that's how all these little houses all around town are going up now. At the ends of, like these. These have been sitting there for 80 years. There's somebody's next door, nobody, they were little shacks.
Sure.
Back in the 50s and the 60s. Some of them got turned into year-round houses, like the ones across the street from me. I grew up in this area, so I know it very well. I think you need to get a determination, because I think you need to go to Roland first to see if they are actually grandfathered Smedbeck lots before you come, if you want to do this one, I don't think I have a problem with the first one, it's the second one. But I have a problem with it, because you're not, if you were at 40,000, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
And I think his advice is good only for the second reason, is that he's protecting you from losing.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree.
So,
Maybe we wait for Roland's
wait
determination.
for Roland's determination. At the same time, I would request, Maren, review this with our town council to make sure that
Well,
the
Roland's
historian that's sitting here is correct, which I appreciate the knowledge.
No, Roland will bring that back to you. He does the research whether these lots are all single, he does the whole package.
Well, that's what he's supposed to do when it comes down first and
He's supposed to do
foremost.
it first.
He does the history back to see who owned it, for how long and when.
Right.
And then whether they're connected by any way, shape, or form. Now, you also said, well, the next one that has 40,000, he's connected a number of them to get up to that number. And once you get up to it, which is now covers, we're supposed to have 44,000, right? What's an acre?
40.
Yeah.
Builders
Builders are
Association.
good 40.
Okay, so they got in there by 40 feet or something? All right, fine enough, like he said, I think that's hunky-dory. But the other one, and that's the one you're gonna have to,
That's one I would.
I agree with Mark on that, and truthfully, you kinda slid into that yourself.
Well, no, I don't, you know
You went in
what?
the second, head first.
Well, we did have this conversation with Roland beforehand. So, and he was on board with this, but, you know, if you.
He was on board with no less
Council,
than
you
you.
might as well.
See, again, if I can,
Please.
see, I think, Mark, you're mixing up some of the old predated zoning with the current zoning. And you're mixing and matching here, and you can't
I'm
do
not
that.
mixing anything with you.
Yeah, he's got, these are predate zoning, so these would be legitimate lots.
No, they wouldn't, Richard. Our zoning says you have to have 40,000 square feet.
But these were grandfathered,
So he has to have,
these are grandfathered.
he has to
as
have
lots.
them, he has to have the 5 of them contiguous in order to be less than 40,000, just those 5. He can't add to them. Once he adds to them, he changes his
No, he
grandfathering
can-
status. Yes, he
can build
does.
He can build on these lots without having 40,000 square feet.
Then he can't show it to us all connected together. Once he combines them and they're in a change of ownership, he loses his grandfather, Richard.
See, you're mixing up the.
No, he's
new
not.
zoning
All
with
I'm
old zoning.
talking about is grandfather.
Yeah, but you're into new zoning about when you're talking about combining lots.
He,
All right, so
soon
wait,
as
just.
soon as he does,
Peter's turn.
Un momento. If you take the one lot that he already has, that's supposed grandfather, 3 lots, is that what it is? 3 lots are connected, is that what you said?
5 lots. 4 to
No,
5.
before the 5, because you get to the 5 and you're under 40,000, you don't have enough, right? He doesn't have enough. But you do have one that's supposed to grandfather, correct? So if he turns around and grandfathers that one, and I am trying to tell you how to do your job, but it seems to make sense to me is you turn around and you grandfather that one, then you try and build on that one by itself, and then after you've bought it, got your everything you need, you go buy the other 3 lots or whatever it takes and put it as part of it to make a more palatable sale to the people owning the house. Does that make sense? And then now we just beat the,
Well-
I don't really want to tell them how to beat the system, but that's
but
pretty
he
much
still
it,
has to
isn't
go
it?
to Roland to get a determination.
No,
Right,
that-
but that
20
deter-
if it's just lot 21 that's grandfathered, if that's the one you're talking about.
We're not gonna get a septic design on that.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
So, now, all right, so that's what I'm saying, if that's your,
Right.
and what makes those other 3 lots going to make it that worthwhile getting us, will it perk?
It will perk, it was conforming as we could get it. We bought, tried to buy as much land as that area to get it to 40,000 square feet. We're very close to being conforming on that. And just so the board knows, that we didn't come in here blind, we went through all this with Roland first to make sure that this flew with him. And again, I prepared the grandfather package that he has. He hasn't made a determination on that yet. Again, just trying to get the ball rolling.
Well, under the circumstances, in my opinion, I'm going to agree with him in this, on this point.
Yes.
Okay? Because I know that the last guy tried to do it up on Washington Street, and right then and there, it was, see you later.
Understand.
Okay.
Well, I'd rather do it prudently anyway, so, and then if your town council can review.
I'll put the request into town council to review, and I'll also wait for Roland's determination if you want to come back for our next.
Well, isn't it,
No, he has to go through all of that whole thing with Roland. It has nothing to do with us. He has to do it with Roland before it even comes. It doesn't cost the town a dime. He has to go through Roland.
They have to pay
Roland
the
goes
town
through
administrator to
council.
look
They
at
pay town council to do all of that.
Yeah.
That's the procedure that's been in place.
And we fought with Roland, we paid Roland, we submitted that package.
Okay.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that if Roland comes back to us, I mean, you don't, as a board for the Form A, are not determining whether lots are buildable or not. You're determining that we are subdividing and that there's frontage.
Right.
So I think that if we come back and even if you're not comfortable, we are, that Roland will issue that building permit on
Then
that.
you're on your own, yeah.
We're on our own.
But you're not exactly right about that one. These 5 lots are supposed to stand on their own. They're supposed to be a building lot all by themselves. So if you come back and we look at it and it's all underwater or something like that, it's not a buildable lot. We still have, you're still supposed to be able to get a septic permit, get water and everything else to these 5 lots. They're supposed to be able to stand all by themselves.
Understand?
He stated they looked at all the land.
And they said the 5 didn't perk.
No, I didn't say that.
No.
You said you couldn't get a septic system on the
Well, we
original.
can't put a 4-bedroom design on 7,500 square feet.
Right.
But, yeah, the land did perk.
All right, okay.
But you can get a 2-bed.
We could get 3 2-bedrooms there, if we, with the land. You have 2, we have 3 grandfathered lots there, but that's not what we wanted to do.
The smartest thing right now to do is back up, because you can see a confusion here. Back up and talk with Roland about getting him to say that these lots.
That he would issue a building permit if they were
Yeah. Whatever it takes with
For your own
Roland.
protection, I think it's
Very good.
So procedurally, you want to withdraw the application for the A&R. Their next meeting is April, whatever the first Thursday, I've got it right here, sorry. Thursday, April 5th will be the next meeting. You can resubmit anytime within 21 days of that date.
Very good.
Can we leave it with you and just get the determination from Roland?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's get, but officially we'll withdraw. I think.
April 5th, Aaron? Did you say April 5th?
Yeah, first Thursday. in April.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Do you want us to take this, Myron, or you want to can we just leave that?
I'm
or-
happy to hold on to it.
Okay,
I just-
all right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
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 you.
you.
So at 6:40, the Economic Development Committee was on our agenda. They have withdrawn. Lauren was happy to inform them that they wanted to discuss the bylaw review.
They were asking about a farm-to-table type restaurant at an active farm. I said, well, we can already do that. We have the bylaw in place. It hasn't been put to use yet, but
But it-
yeah, it exists. Yeah.
That's the one when we were looking at for ski area.
But it didn't,
They didn't specify, so Economic
But I mean,
Development.
that's when we already have someone going on already. They were farming out across from Cooper and using it as a ski area, correct? Tomatoes and all that stuff, some corn. They did that at one point.
Well, that's not, that was Western. They were throwing in serving in Western.
I don't care. We're the farmers, we're the table.
They were farm to table. You are correct.
I don't know what the hell you'd farm for and not go to a table. What you go, you can't find.
So we have a few minutes before the next agenda item for 93 Foster Street. While we have this moment, we wanted to talk about our schedule for a joint meeting with the selectmen for the 12th,
yeah.
who may or may not be available.
What?
Of March.
March 12th.
It's Monday.
I'll be here.
Okay. We need to, the discussion that we had last week
For the medical.
for their adult use marijuana, talking about HCA's and just trying to give a little more guidance to town council to finish writing up the warrant or approve the warrant that they might draft.
Or if there's not going to be a quorum, then give whoever would be there authority to negotiate, or to work with the selectmen on the final version.
It sounds like Mark's here.
I think I'm gonna be here.
I didn't read it, the newspaper had something about that the state was gonna roll out the approvals for different uses in different stages. So I didn't read it, I just saw the headline. You did?
We had an interesting conversation this afternoon, trying to work through some of those details and how town council will approach that. So
If the state doesn't get off their, if the state doesn't get off their asses, we're supposed to sit here in limbo, is that?
So I think,
We make a determination, we pay somebody to have him pull out his crystal ball and guess what the legislature's gonna do, and then what you gotta change everything again?
The 15th is when the regulations come out.
Yeah. No, but they did withdraw delivery, marijuana, adult use marijuana delivery is off the table.
In the social,
And the social club is off the table. They're not gonna propose it now. So in our discussions, we were talking about delivery being a possible use. We won't be allowed to use that now. It's off the table, so we
I thought we had eliminated that in the last conversation anyways, didn't we?
No, we were talking about making
Trying to
more.
get, to cover the two acts.
Exactly, and then make the permitting.
I knew that.
but given the timing of when the regulations will be finalized and when the warrant closes, there could be a joint meeting on the 12th. The selectmen will be taking it up.
People, please, thank you.
The selectmen will be taking it up on the 12th and would like your input.
2.5 minutes up.
What's that? No, we only use 1 minute and a half minute. So, folks, this is televised, so we just need it to be a little quieter so that anybody that's trying to hear what we're discussing can be heard on TV.
I mean, all 6 people that watch us.
I think there might be 7 tonight.
Our rates are slipping.
In a few more minutes, we'll discuss 93 Foster Street. Who's presenting on 93 Foster?
So we're meeting April 5th is our next planning board meeting.
The 12th would be the joint meeting with the selectmen, and the 22nd is master plan. It's a Thursday.
Who wants that?
22nd,
You want to be on master plan?
I thought, you started, you should.
No. It's only a year. I'm only in prison for a year.
For this?
March 12th, April 5th, April 22nd, or March 22nd?
March 22nd.
Is what, another meeting?
No, that's us.
The master plan. And when's the elections?
First Saturday.
March 22nd is master plan?
Yes.
We're not meeting on March 17th, right? That's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
It's every Irishman's birthday.
There
Is
you
that
go.
March 22nd going to be a?
No, that's
joint?
master plan.
No.
That's-
No.
Just,
You don't have to do that.
Yep, just reminding Mark that it was a master plan meeting.
Thanks.
Town meeting is Monday, May 7th. Elections are Saturday, May 12th.
That's my birthday,
There
really.
you go. We've got planning board meeting May 3rd.
Thanks.
no other planning board meeting in
You taking me for
April,
When's your birthday?
except the 5th.
Not at this
Where do you
point.
wanna go?
It depends on how things go.
Big 6-0.
Are you really 16? Not that private. Wow. You look good for
Any
16.
public hearings we have to
You look good
have
for 16.
on April 5th.
58.
You liar.
Up to April 5th.
I'll be
And
60.
then it's
Have to have on April 5th
63.
for town meetings. So the
Older than
adult use marijuana public hearing would have to be on April
I'm at
5th.
Sahara Forest.
Okay.
I'm going to say that aloud to remind myself to do the hearing notice.
You know the Sahara Forest? I do.
Oh, sorry, Desert. Can we start already? I'm sick of listening to Peter already.
Is there beer in that?
Coffee. All right, 7 o'clock. Preliminary subdivision, 93 Foster Street. Anybody here to present?
Is that who's out in the,
Oh, you may want to go get up there up.
Oh. Continue to the next time. I think the process was that.
yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. For the record.
Rich Harrington, engineer from Stamps McNary. We also have Bruce Wheeler and Brian Ahern, the applicants, and Peter and Paul Vilkins, the owners, and Jake Carmody, the traffic consultant from Vanessa. So to update the board, as you know, the peer consultant came back with what we believe to be a positive report on the traffic to support the waiver request to going below the 400-foot separation between the intersections. I did also visit the site after that big snow melt when there's concerns about things. The site was dry with the runoff. There was no bleeding of water coming down the hill with concerns of neighbors that you might see from swales or something through the woods. So there was no extra runoff problems that I saw at the intersection. Heading down towards Harwood, though, that was a different story down that road. There's a lot of potholes, et cetera. So this road is probably high on the list to be upgraded, I'm sure, for Foster. So the reason why we're back tonight is we also submitted the open space plan. And we had made some adjustments, Mr. Crowley, about the intersection, trying to stretch it out as far as the cul-de-sac. It's more of a loop, if you will, which shortens all the driveways in front of the proposed open space homes. And I apologize that it's not up on the screen yet. So the applicant is willing to go with the open space development if that is the preference of the board. It seems to be more of a benefit to the neighbors that we have a 50-foot strip of open space along the Mill Road residence and also in the back. We would also keep the same entrance, whether it's conventional or open space. So the waiver would be required for either one. And we would request a waiver to the cul-de-sac turnaround shape like we talked about. When you look at the homes configured, it just brings them in closer together as opposed to having longer driveways off your typical circular driveway. It's a little difficult to see, but we did keep the circle in a lighter color. At the end of that open space, so this is the open space option. And the road A, the entrance is the same. And then we have an open space parcel behind the existing home on the right-hand side. So that would be a 100-foot strip of open space behind the existing home. Running parallel to Mill Road will be a 50-foot open space buffer around the perimeter. And then the 8 proposed homes will be pushed in, clustered together. And with opening up that cul-de-sac loop, it opens up an opportunity to have an open space parcel in the middle, which we could maybe have a gazebo or open space or a little bit of a community area, what have you, as opposed to it being just a small landscape island, which has little use.
Yeah.
So this will give you also, for the neighborhood itself, you know, that we are up a little bit higher than the main road. You could have bicycles, you could walk up there, neighbors could come up and walk the loop and come back down. So it seems to be an overall positive aspect for the neighborhood, would be this open space plan.
You get sidewalks both sides.
So basically, if there's a sidewalk requirement, we can provide it. If there's a desire to not have a sidewalk, then we don't need to provide one. As you know, there's no sidewalk on Foster Street or on Mill Road.
Right.
So we'd be open to that discussion as well. So we upgraded the footprint of the house. We found a record plan that showed the house layout. And it's right at the setback of 30 feet off the proposed road. And each house, as you know, it's private septic and town water. And we'd have the drainage around the perimeter, similar to what we had in the other plan. And we opened up, this is a larger scale plan, 60 scale as opposed to 40. You had asked us to show more of the neighborhood. So heading down to the southwest, if you will, that geometry of the road layout, that's from a different record plan also. So the geometry of the road right away is from record plans. It's not from the assessor's map. So that's the layout. The pavement might be off a couple feet. But I did go out there and measure the pavement at intervals, and it's basically 20 feet. You know, you might have a 10.5-foot lane and an 11 or 12 based on where the yellow line is. And so we feel that this is an ideal location that does work based on the 2 traffic reports. And so our hope is that the board will support the waiver, and if they want the open space, we'll do it. We're not required to do that because we're just below that acreage, as you know. But then the applicant will work towards coming back with the definitive plan.
So we are
Yeah,
open
so-
to discussion.
So, yeah, I'd like to open this hearing.
And actually, Tom is here to give an overview of the traffic review that they did.
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay. Well, Tom,
Actually,
Tom couldn't make it.
Oh, sorry.
Luke Boucher from Green International. Tom couldn't make it tonight. Mike Barazinski worked on the review, so
okay.
All right.
he can present the findings.
For the record,
Michael Brzezinski
with,
from Green International.
thank you.
So the applicant provided 48 hours of traffic data, including traffic counts and speed study. We did our own independent traffic count and speed study in a 48-hour window. We confirmed all data provided as far as speeds in the 85th percentile that the applicant provided, as well as traffic counts in ADT. During our analysis, we also reviewed site distance requirements for the intersection spacing, as well as site distance in general. We conducted a field walk of the site and did our own analysis and compared it to what the applicant provided. During our site walk, we confirmed that the southbound approach meets minimum site distance requirements provided by AASHTO and Mass DOT. And we also concluded that the northbound approach was also met. However, we also reviewed the desired site distance provided by AASHTO and Mass DOT. That was met by the southbound approach. However, it was not met in the northbound approach. We would like to note that it does meet the minimum requirement. However, we recommend that a warning sign be installed on the northbound approach to the proposed subdivision entrance, due to it not meeting the desired.
Yeah, sorry.
We also reviewed the distance spacing between the proposed entrance of the subdivision and Mill Road. The applicant provided or referred to the subdivision regs to meeting the 300-foot spacing requirement between roads. However, the regulation specified states that this roadway, this is the distance between intersections within the subdivision, not intersections from the entrance of the subdivision on the roadway. There's a separate subdivision regulation that states on collector roadways there needs to be a minimum spacing of 300 feet. Let me confirm that. Sorry.
It would be 400.
400 feet, sorry. Due to that, we advised the applicant to either relocate that location of the intersection or provide a waiver for that requirement. And that concludes
Thank you.
our review. Yeah.
There's no opportunity.
And in plain English, what do you, how do you see that, that intersection?
How do I see that intersection?
Is it dangerous, is it not dangerous? Does it have a problem with the going south side or a problem going east side?
So southbound approach is good. The applicant discusses some clearing that they will be doing, which will push us well beyond the desired. The northbound approach, with multiple intersections falling in line, including Harwood and Mill Road,
Yeah.
it still meets that requirement of the minimum.
Yeah.
So the site distance should be fine, and there is some vertical, what's causing the site not meeting the desirable is basically a vertical hump with some topography off the roadway.
That hump on the road or off the road?
Off the road.
Off the road.
Yeah, so we would have to, I believe we would have to go outside the public layout to to improve that.
And that's not on the piece of property?
I do not believe so.
Yeah. And you recommended us some signage on the northbound side,
Correct.
warning signage.
Warning signage of the intersection.
What would that warning sign say?
Basically, it would be a graphic of an intersection stating that intersection ahead.
Okay. So, in short, this would work
Yes,
with some signage?
correct. As far as meeting the regulation of distance between intersections, that is not met as far as the subdivision regs state. However, Mass DOT only specifies 250-foot spacing between roadways,
Yeah.
which is met.
So it meets the mass.
So it meets mass, but it does not meet our subdivision regulations as far as how it's written.
Because it's less than 250 feet to Mill Road?
No, it's less than
Because
400 feet.
less than 400.
400 feet to Mill
Yeah.
Road.
I believe what is
370.
provided is
It's about 320.
320.
Okay.
We can move that a few more feet over if we need to. It's shown right now at a 90-degree angle. As you know, we can go a little bit different, change that angle slightly to increase that distance.
Well, it's better to have a roadway enter another roadway at 90 degrees.
That's preferred, yes.
Yeah. And the delta, you meet the Mass DOT. And basically, our new subdivision rules and regulations were taken from Mass DOT. Where did this other, when you said the other subdivision regulations?
Those are our regulations.
We have new subdivision regulations that are based on Mass DOT.
Right, that didn't get changed.
Okay. Are you sure of that?
Yeah.
It's in our bylaw.
Okay. Okay, well, they were supposed to have been modeled after the Mass
course.
DOT.
If, when you did the road count you also did one for Grimes Lane coming out of there, correct? You checked Grimes Lane's numbers when we approved their entrance for traffic count?
I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved in the traffic count part of that.
He asked you a question, just for the record.
Oh, sorry, Luke Boucher from Green International.
Okay, I was just curious as if the numbers from here would match up with the numbers that we did for Grimes Lane for traffic, counts and speeds and such as that, because I'm pretty sure we had one done, didn't we?
Right.
It was the new road that went in for the Durkey Farm Estates. I can't think of the name of the road, but they did do a traffic study.
Right, so I was just curious as to whether these numbers were,
Balsam or Fraser that comes out.
Balsam, actually, that comes in, right?
you know what I was talking about, right?
I knew you
So,
were
but-
going.
You knew what I was talking about, didn't you?
I did, but I don't know the numbers. But on this one, as Mike stated, they had done a traffic count and
And
determined
yours
the 85th.
confirmed theirs.
Exactly. They did the
So
85th
that's-
percentile speed. We did our own independent and confirmed both the 85th percentile speed and the traffic counts.
Now, are we free to talk, ask?
I just want to see if Mark, and then we'll go back.
Okay.
Are you done, Peter?
Yes.
Don't want to step on your toes. I just want to make sure
You could have to step on.
I looked at it and I drove it again. I'm not so much concerned about the distance from the intersection as I am the sight distance going towards Taylor Street. That's north, right? That's the north.
That's
Towards
actually
Harvard?
from-
Southbound.
Looks like it's
Towards
west.
South,
Towards Howard? Harwood?
Howard, yeah.
Looks more west than,
I just found it to be very narrow because of the curve right there and the elevation on the roadway right there, that it's gonna be tough to see cars coming around the corner. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't as concerned about the 80 feet from the intersection as I was from the sight distance there. So that's why I'm a little more interested in what you actually found for the site. What was the actual number you found for the site distance looking at? You say minimum and maximum, how far till you see a car?
So, in layman terms, you're sitting at the end of Road A, the new subdivision, you're ready to pull out.
You're gonna go to the right.
You're looking north and south, or as Peter would say, east and west.
So, the required site distance, 240 feet.
Okay, and what do you think you actually had there?
We recorded that. In the field, we recorded that there was...
Our report has 264 from Finesse.
That's a far cry from 400.
Well, no.
Site distance, not
The site is a different animal.
This is where you see a car.
Site distance, so
not buildways.
if you're looking to turn left out of the subdivision, and a car's coming from Harwood, they want you to have 240 feet.
Okay.
Our report shows that we have 24 extra feet. And that becomes down with a comfort level too, whether it's offensive to have the other car slow down a little bit while
I
you're
thought you was going right out of that subdivision, not going
So
left.
turning right, they're not going to be out in field traffic. So turning right,
But it's a country road, and people have a tendency to kind of take the whole road when they, look, these are small little country roads. You don't have sidewalks there, it's barely 18 feet of pavement out there.
there's 20 feet of pavement there.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to find out what the site distance is going that way.
Oh, no, do you concur with the 264?
Yeah, we concur with the 264 in the field. I think we were more around 275 when we had measured. So we were actually more than the applicant provided.
Going towards,
Going northbound.
no, I don't want to go northbound, I want to go southbound. I want to go out and take a right out of that subdivision.
I didn't put it on the map, somebody else did, and
I want to know how
So-
far the site distance is if you, at the end of the driveway and you're getting ready to take a right.
So stopping site distance would be a vehicle driving northbound around that curve and then possibly having a collision with a vehicle exiting.
Right.
So that's stopping site distance. The minimum stopping site distance is also the minimum intersection site distance for that vehicle, as well as in your situation, taking a right out of there to see if
How far is the curve from the intersection? Right there.
I don't know exactly how far the curve is, however, the distance of sight slightly beyond the curve from what you can see is 275.
You think it's 275 feet from there to then coming to, go
Yep.
back a little, see where the line ends? You're saying it's 275 feet to there?
Yep,
That's 262, so he's actually a little further. That was my line of measurement.
yep. So what we do in the field is I reenact a vehicle in the stopped condition, looking to take a left or right out of the intersection. And then my partner in the field will then walk as far as they can along the roadway and then act as a car making that corner. And then from there, we'll take a wheel and then we'll measure that distance all the way back to where I'm standing.
how tall is that man? Because what happens if a guy's coming around that corner in a little Lamborghini real low?
Well, MassDOT has a certain default height of
Not all of us
site,
can
so
afford
I
Lamborghinis.
believe it's
None of us are tall
2.5
either.
feet, or about 3 feet, I think.
He'd have to have two phone books to comply with the rules underneath him when he drives. He'd be 3.5 feet.
So when we're in the field, we're basing crouch position.
275 is the number.
If I could explain, so you're asking, so what you're trying to double check on is when you're actually turning out and you're coming out into the lane extra wide. At that point, the distance improves because now you're in the middle of the road, and that inside curve doesn't matter as much, you can see further down the road.
Yeah, but it doesn't help you if you couldn't see the car and he's flying, coming up that way, and all of a sudden you have about half a second to react to a car that's coming up that road. That's my only point of this whole thing is, how safe is it to get in and out of that subdivision from coming the other way? Because there's a curve there and there's a hill there.
We agree with both of those facts, and we met you on the field too.
Right, you're saying it's 275 and,
Right, they're saying it's 275, and your subdivision rules also rely on that Mass DOT number, the 240 or 250. So that, your rules reference that as a standard also, we meet those standards. And once we have the survey and topography, if there's a way to improve it, once we get the actual elevations, we'll do that. We always work with the town to provide the best intersection possible. And as you know, this road will be upgraded, as people are talking about. And if there's a willing to work with the neighbor to cut back the slope, if they hear what you're saying, then that's something that they,
all right,
we have to do.
well, I have one more thing. If we're gonna do an open space, and we've got a bunch of open space that we've done in the past. To me, open space has to have some value to it, other than just buffering houses from little swaths around subdivisions are not really good open space. There's not a big area that somebody could do something in. If we look at if we look at Gray Farm and Cobb Meadows and things like that, where we have open space subdivisions, you cluster the houses in one area and you have a nice contiguous piece of open space. Little areas. I know Richard likes them for the wildlife and things like that, but they have no real value as an open space parcel, as far as I'm concerned, a little swath of land around the outside perimeter. Unless they're tied into a bigger open space that goes around it, but they're not really, they're tied into people's backyards. So, to me, this isn't really a true open space plan. There's no value of it. If you look at Delaney Drive, there's like 30 acres of open space and the houses are on like 12 acres. So it's a big, the ratio is exactly opposite of what you're doing there. So I'm not thrilled with the open space plan. I know it's a better plan for the residents, but to me, it's not really an open space plan.
Mark,
What?
for those of us who like to walk, this is a perfect open space plan. How would you make it better?
Richard, how are you even gonna get to them? You have to walk through people's houses
No, 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 no.
to get to the.
Nope.
get-
Just after Lot A, you see where it says parcel A? And you see the dotted line that runs along the perimeter at the bottom?
Yeah.
That dotted line, I don't know if you can see it in this. Yeah. There's a little dotted line that starts up here and runs, you can just barely see it on this, but it's on our drawing. And it runs right up to there.
But that's somebody's house, right there. See that little square box? People live in that little square box, Richard. How can that be?
Listen, that's
That's a little path.
that's a right of way.
That's a
That's a
path.
typical setback, whether it's, so
That's a path.
Well, what would you do to improve it?
I would make a bigger parcel. I'd make it like 15, 18 acres, all contiguous, all together. That you had a nice field, you could do something in the field, you could walk through it like.
It's hilly. It's this, there isn't a
Well,
flat
then-
piece on this
Then
piece
it's
of
not a
land.
good open space plan, Richard. Just because it has a little path doesn't make it a good open space plan.
Oh, it certainly does, Mark,
Oh.
because it gives, the way, you've got a nice wildlife corridor on the south.
What happens
on the
if
north
each
side
one of
this?
those house lots put up a fence and right on their lot lines, the entire distance of their lot lines? What if somebody, I don't like my neighbor, I want to put a fence up, why can't they?
Because that's a deeded
It's a
right of way.
walkway.
To that.
No, it's not. It's just a
Request
walkway.
it, but it's not shown as an either.
It's
Well,
not.
it could,
Those-
it would be, it would have to be.
They're not, it's not a good open space. It should be big pieces, big parcels that you can actually do something with. Walking along a 10-foot wide trail to get to a 50-foot wide trail to walk around the back of the perimeter is not.
But Mark, how can you make it?
It's his opinion.
How can you collect 30 or 40 acres there on?
That's what we did before, Richard.
You
Look
don't
at the
have,
other ones.
you don't have 30, 40
Then
acres
you don't have a
there.
good open space plan. That's kind of my point.
And number,
You shouldn't be
number two,
shoehorning everything in and calling it open space when it's not really open space. That's my point, Richard. That's my opinion. Delaney Drive is good open space.
All right,
Gray
well,
Farm is a good open space.
the latest in planning and design, this fits that model. This fits the latest model for open space with the consideration for wildlife corridors.
Where do you have any consideration for wildlife corridors? You have a little, do you think the animals are gonna know that they can only walk in this little 50-foot wide swath?
When you cluster the houses around like this, that means whatever wildlife is there right now, is going right across the whole area. They're probably going down the valley. Now, if you cluster everything here, they'll still go down the valley. And they'll come out, we've got all this area behind the houses. Those houses will be on the top of a hill.
But that's people's backyards. That's not open space.
We're talking about wildlife.
We're not, wildlife are gonna go no matter where they want. It doesn't matter if it's an open space plan or not.
The reason they go wherever they want is because they will. And what you want to do is you want to try to design a project so that they can go and they're not interrupted.
Wouldn't it be better if, say, those 3 houses were gone and they had 300 feet of going all the way back? They wouldn't have to worry about
Which
what.
three houses?
I'm just, any 3 houses on either side. If you pushed all the open space to one side, left the other side, all in its natural state, then the animals don't have to worry about missing people's bicycles and going around people's backyard pools. They could go straight back up through into the open space that's up in the back.
I'd agree
I'm
with you.
just, that's
I
what.
would agree with you, but it's 10 houses. Mark.
Well, the
How are you gonna
reality
take-
is, there's
how are
too
you
many
gonna take
houses
three,
and
houses out of that.
there's too many houses and not enough decent open space. That's my opinion,
All right.
okay? All right,
Good
You must have
conversation.
smarter animals
No,
than I do.
good-
They know where
good
to go. Mine
conversation.
don't.
You can tell we have different opinions here.
Yes, we do, but thank you
Good
both
notice.
for your
That makes for
opinions.
good television.
Thank you both for your opinions, Mr. Harrington.
To be honest with you, I was worried about the human beings around the neighborhood, not the wildlife, when I drew this plan up. We'll happily go with the conventional subdivisions. And- And we're only 9.9 acres, so we only have 10 acres. We don't have a 40-acre parcel here.
But the conventional subdivision provides much less consideration for wildlife.
I'm just saying it's not really an open space plan. I don't have a problem with doing it, it's not an open space plan.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I don't have a problem
So
with
you don't
endorsing
have a
that.
problem with doing the open space
I
plan,
don't consider it an open space plan. I say it's less,
but you would still go with it.
Horse.
I would go with it because it's better for the neighbors, but it's not an open space
Pick it up on
plan.
one thing, so either plan requires a definitive subdivision application. The applicant's willing to do a special permit process to go with this one. This one has a shorter road. It can become a public way or it can remain private. This one has a stretched out cul-de-sac, which can have an opportunity for something in the middle, and then there's a 100-foot strip on the right. It moves a few houses from Mill Road closer to the inside, which might be a benefit for the neighbors. Other than that, you're right, it's a strip of land. Not hiding it, but we only have 10 acres, so
No, that's,
it is what it is. We're not looking for people to walk around. We want them to use a loop in the front, say hello to people. This is a neighborhood for people. The wildlife are down the valley. They're gonna cut through and eat the shrubs in the back no matter what. So it's one or the other. Applicants will do whichever one you want.
I like him, he cuts right to the chase and he's not sugarcoating it.
That's because
At
he
this-
agrees with you, Mark.
At this point, I'd like to open up for public comment. We have received some written already. They have been taken under advisement, but if there's anybody here that would like to speak, butters, please just state your name for the record.
Warren Terrell, 14 Mill Lane, Littleton. The concern I have is relative to the houses on the northerly side of the site. The slopes in that area are between 10 and 16%. I do recognize that it does not appear that they're encroaching upon the buffer zone of the wetland. However, the slopes coming up from the valley come up quite close to the rear of the houses there. My question is, how much of that slope will be cleared or disturbed? Because the leaching systems probably will have to be stepped onto the slope using some kind of a side fill type of operation. And I'm very concerned that the slope will be basically completely taken away. Maybe they're going to use retaining walls, I don't know. But the point is, trying to site houses and leaching fields on a steep slope is problematic, to say the least. And right now, I see that whole slopes being taken away, and I'm not in favor of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anyone else? Please, your name.
Nicholas Bates House, 28 Birch Road. I'm also a member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. So I have two thoughts. One thought is we mentioned sidewalks earlier, and I can't really see from here whether there are sidewalks included, but particularly with anticipated upgrades to Foster Street, with improved accommodation for bicycles and pedestrians, it would be a real shame for the subdivision to go in without sidewalks and have those improvements on Foster Street. So we would very much like to see pedestrian accommodations within the subdivision.
Okay.
My second thought is I do bike Foster Street to and from the train station every day for my commute. The sight lines in there are terrible. There are a lot of pedestrians, a lot of joggers, people walking their dogs, kids walking to and from the school bus. Cars are often on the wrong side of the road, approaching very quickly, so traffic concerns for the intersection really are a consideration. Whether there are special considerations for that for Mass DOT or anything, I don't know, but it's a very heavily pedestrian trafficked area, and that's something to think about.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else in the public like to make comment?
If I could just respond. The gentleman that spoke first about the septics on the slope, we did flip lots 3, 4, and 5 to have the septics in the front yard, and we wouldn't touch that slope in the back. I've walked up and down it, and he is correct, it is steep, so we would move, once we have the topo, field surveyed, we'd stay off that slope.
That's right, it shows the
For lots
septic.
7 and 8.
3, 4, and 5.
This gentleman lives on Mill Road, so he was concerned about the slope, I think, coming all the
And
way.
6, 7, and 8, we
It's
have
gradual.
testing down that area. It is a little, it's still, it's a gentle slope on the back of lots 4 and 5. So once we get the topography, we'll make adjustments and take that into consideration.
Okay. I know that when you do your septic design, it'll show topography at that point too, and it'll be available through the Board of Health if this gets approved.
Yes, and we have official soil testing scheduled in a couple weeks, so.
All right.
Can we,
We have one more. Do you want to go? Oh, take her.
go ahead.
Please.
Anne Grace, 82 Nashoba Road. I'm also a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and respectfully would like to offer the Planning Committee a copy of a letter that was written by Pamela Campbell, who at that time was the director of COA, our sponsoring organization, and it was addressed to the Planning Board, reminding you of all the different commitments that we have in this town that we've made in our bylaws. And at this early stage of planning, this is the time when it would be helpful to perhaps refresh your memory as to what it is that we've committed to be doing as a town. And so I would just like to offer these to the Planning Board, a copy each.
Terrific. You can hand them to Maren. We'll take it under advisement.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
Okay.
I realize that we've had conversations before about open space and septic systems and the like. And your open space in the middle of the cul-de-sac, this is a saying from the old, just out of hate, do we allow someone, for them to take a lot that does perk where it is and put the septic for that one in that center in order to,
Can't go under the road if we're going to accept that.
I mean, under it, over to it? I mean, for some reason, that way you could pull the houses closer to the road instead of the septic being in the front.
So so speaking
I
of
just-
setbacks, right, no, so there's a standard in the setbacks for any open space subdivision that is 25 feet, I believe is the standard. If you're gonna be looking for any less than that from any of these houses, then I would want you to request it.
Okay, yeah, we show 40 off the open space line to the houses,
Okay.
which is, I believe, the requirement. Do you have the conventional plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see that. So it's just a matter of, that's also the discussion. So it's the layout, the road's longer, and then the houses are pushed further, closer to Mill Road. So those are the two aspects that are the primary benefits of the open space. There's a shorter road, closer houses, and moved away from Mill Lane.
And the circle,
In the circle,
Yeah.
so. And everything else, it's, right,
yeah.
you can't have everything with every piece of land. Those are the benefits that are primary, and here's the conventional layout without a special permit. We are just at 10 acres, so the cul-de-sac is longer to get the larger frontages required per your regular zoning. There's the typical circle turnaround per your regs. And then we wouldn't be on that slope, we'll be left and right of that slope that the gentleman talked about, so the road would go right up to the edge of that slope. The homes on lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, I agree, are basically the same here as the open space, maybe they're a little further back into the left. The lot right behind the existing home is the one that would go away. That's the one that a couple of the neighbors on Mill Road talked about, and that's the primary benefit of switching plans. And then also the turnaround and the shorter road. We do still, so, I mean, that's, to be upfront, that's basically what it is. We believe there's, less pavement is always a goal for Green Street, stuff like that, so. We're all in on the sidewalk, that's fine. And however the board wants to move forward, we're willing to go forward with that.
The real issue
Granite
is the
concrete.
waiver. The real issue is the 80-foot waiver.
That's the only one they're looking for. So the subdivision regulations for granite and concrete sidewalks will be required.
Whatever your rules are, we'll provide them, and then if there's a change desired, we can just talk about it.
So I want to go back to what Nicholas had stated about being a commuter and using Foster Street. I'm aware of the dangers that exist on Foster Street for pedestrians. I'm hopeful that sooner rather than later, the street will be addressed and sidewalks will be installed. And I don't know if we've have any update from DPW on that, or is there anything in the works that you're aware of, Mark?
Well,
The scuttlebutt in town hall?
it is in the works, but funding is through the TIP program, state, federal transportation money, so that's a lengthy process. It's just trying to be added to the list now, which means
Can
8
developers that are
years.
looking to do subdivisions contribute to road improvements outside of their own?
Certainly.
Okay, good to know. Something to think about.
You know, typically, we are obligated to do the sidewalk along the frontage, so you'd be picking up something there from the intersection of Mill Road to the end of our property at the beginning.
Right, and if we could get you to establish a sidewalk past the dangerous corner, that
Well, that
would
involves the owner of this property,
be...
right?
Well, the town has a right-of-way within there that they can install a sidewalk, so for safety's sake for people coming around that corner, and if we have pedestrians that are using that, I would like to see an opportunity to put the sidewalk coming in down to
Who is
the end of the sight line that you have it. It says Elizabeth Mahoney, I can't read that.
Yeah, and actually Foster Street is a little unique because the right-of-way width is quite variable. So in definitive design, they might be able to come up with something creative.
Who owns that property right there?
I can't read it. It's Elizabeth something.
Existing driveway, curb your loaded.
That would be Elizabeth Leahy.
Leahy, okay, it says Mahoney.
So it's Beth owns that one?
Okay. So that one and the next one over, so both
That-
lots.
That's that small, that one there, that flat roof garage,
Yes.
correct? That's what that is?
Yes.
So if we can get a sidewalk done on both sides of that, so that anybody coming down the road that is pedestrian could avoid a potential incident with a car that has a reduced sight line or stopping
I'd be
factor.
willing to work with them on that.
We can certainly, we'll work on you with that.
Okay. Appreciate the commitment, thank you. So having that commitment from the developer, we're trying to at least resolve the danger.
Well, it's going 49 feet to the left and 130 feet to the right.
No, he's going, was it 260 that you had measured your sight line?
They're saying 275.
256.
What is your line here? 265?
Right, 240 is the limit.
So 265 is where you can see. 265 gets people safely around that corner.
But is that what he's signing on for, a sidewalk that distance?
That's what I'm requesting. Now,
Yeah, we're willing to work with you on that.
okay. Thank you.
That's great, that maybe
In
we
the
can
other
talk to
direction?
Jimmy about
And
working
he's gonna
with,
go over the intersection on the
have
other.
Jimmy-
As well as the Mill Road on the other one, irregardless?
With Chris now.
I know it's not a word, but it is if you look
that's
at
right,
it.
Chris.
So,
So that will satisfy the request for the waiver, is that how you're thinking?
it gets pedestrians safely around the corner.
I understand his opinion.
I can deal with that. I think that makes it, that's a solution to it, let's put it that way.
All right, so we'll work together with them, with,
All right, I think we've come up with something, so, look, out of the two, open space is the one that we would consider.
It's the lesser of two evils, how about it?
Yes, that's how I would look at it also.
Mark, that's wonderful.
Richard, I'm always accommodating, I always try to be. And little critters need someplace to try to walk around.
So that is the one waiver you requested, is the 80 feet sight line,
Intersection distance.
intersection distance.
And in lieu of that, we're gonna get sidewalks from the intersection to the subdivision roadway, and from the subdivision roadway to the end of the sightline distance, and we'll grant them the waiver for the 80 feet.
that's our intended purpose.
And then one more aspect, so if it's, the movement's the open space, about just agreeing on the shape of the cul-de-sac, that we'd have some flexibility to.
Yeah,
Providing that the fire engines can make their way around, because I guess they're buying a new truck and so.
Well,
It's a nice building, drove by it today.
Oh, geez, thanks, why don't you?
want to contribute to that?
Unscrew a couple light bulbs for you?
That being said, I would be okay with reconfiguring that to suit the site, that being said, that it doesn't reduce in size. We don't lose any more length of the road than we already have, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So you can move it, as long as it doesn't reduce.
Okay.
Reshape it, but that's actually a fairly decent shape. Yeah,
Terrific. We can do that.
great.
All right.
Mark, you want to make the motion?
I already did.
You-
Well, I haven't, but that's the motion for the waiver.
That's the motion to grant the waiver. So the next question is we're approving?
I think the only determination is we're determining that we want to go with the open space plan in the definitive process as opposed to the conventional plan.
And then we address the other things at that,
That's definitive.
so be it. So,
Okay.
if we're looking to have in favor of the open space plan,
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the open space plan as the preferred.
I'll second that.
And we'll address all the brass tacks of it in definitive.
All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Can I see that? Handout from Green.
Gave you all the key
All right,
stuff
7:20, we're getting behind, so I'm gonna speed this up. Continued public hearing for definitive subdivision K property. Is, Luke, are you here for this one also?
I am,
All right, why don't you come on forward too, because we're gonna call you up anyway.
all right.
Let's see here. For the record.
For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates representing K-Land LLC. Just a brief note, Dave Guthrie is minutes away, so he will be joining us this evening.
Okay.
So we were before you last month, giving a brief overview of where we are in the process right now. Since then, we've had a productive few weeks. We've issued a full revision to the plan set, and Green has had an opportunity to review that. And I'll defer to him for a summary of the new peer review letter. In addition, we had a department head meeting. We invited water, electric, DPW, fire, police, care of mine, and we had a few attendees, but not exactly everyone we were hoping for. So in the coming weeks, we plan on meeting with water and electric to kind of drill down on just a couple of the coordination aspects. Obviously, what we will end up installing, putting in the ground, is going to conform to their requests and requirements. So right now, it's just getting a step ahead of design plans during this process. I guess with that said, if Mr. Chair, Green would like to summarize theirs, however.
Luke, you ready to go?
Sure. Luke Boucher from Green International. So I reviewed a good portion of this. Tom Bigelow, who you guys have all met from my office, reviewed the roadway portion of this. He meant to be here tonight, but something came up and he couldn't be here. So I'll try to cover his things as best I can. But if some comments, in-depth stuff comes up about the roadway, I may have to, say I'll have to get back to you once I can pick Tom's brain about it.
Okay.
But for the most part, I think I've got the gist of the major items. And I'm not going to go through the entire letter, item by item.
That's good, because I read it.
Yeah.
It's long.
Yeah. So for brevity's sake, we did take out all of the items that we feel have been satisfactorily addressed. So what's left is actual things we think still need to change or need further discussion.
Will you pick them up number by number for us? Go down the list of things that you think need to be addressed.
Oh, well, it's the everything in here is, we took out everything that.
Okay.
that
So
has
this is
been-
everything that's left that you have
this is-
concerns with?
This is everything that's left.
He's replied to everything, right?
Yes.
This is the latest, this one here.
Yeah, and so some of these things are, I guess, they're kind of technical things that, it'll take forever if we kind of go through them all one at a time. But I figured maybe I can just cover, like, hit the big ticket items.
Have at it.
And we did speak, or Tom today, spoke to Chris Stoddard, and, you know, Chris kind of voiced some of the same concerns that Tom had with some of the items. So I'll just go through item 3. We weren't able to conduct our site visit earlier in the review process. In the first review, we got hit with a snowstorm, and then it kind of became a moot point. But now, well, I guess depending on what happens over the next couple of days, we were hoping to still be able to do that, you know, in the next coming week or 2 weeks or whatever. But I just wanted to point that out. Probably one of the biggest items is that there's, where they're proposing Douglas Street coming off of Grimes, there's a wetland in that area that they're going to be cutting through. And the road is going to be lower than that wetland. So that's kind of an odd configuration. So they're going to be cutting the road through, the wetland's going to be higher on either side, and presumably with the wetland higher on either side, groundwater is higher than the road. So
that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, that was kind of a,
Listen.
that was our concern. We kind of voiced that in the initial comments and asked for, you know, a response on what they exactly are planning on doing. What they're showing is kind of an impervious barrier, kind of to hold the groundwater down. And we have concerns with that. You know, essentially what you're trying to do is, if groundwater is up, you're essentially pushing a bowl down inside a sink full of water, and you've got that buoyant force pushing up on that liner and the road. So we have concerns about, you know, the long-term viability of that. In addition, you know, you can, even if that were to hold the water down, we've got utilities that are being proposed running through there. So anytime anything needs to happen, you know, if there was to be water line repair, drainage repair, they'd have to dig through that barrier. And you're also going to have manholes and catch basins which are going to have to protrude through that barrier. So, I mean, it just has and you know, so it's, anytime you get a cut through that barrier, you've got the potential for water to squirt up through, essentially, and get into the subbase, into the pavement. And
What part of the road is that?
that's down, actually, it's right, it's near where it connects to Grimes.
Okay. So it's right opposite lot 48?
Yeah, I believe so, down in that
Open
area.
space lot.
Yeah, and so they were gonna have walls on either side with an impervious barrier, but we, you know, so that was probably our biggest concern, and Chris Stoddard, you know, concurred with that. We've got some, you know, do us a favor and I'll skip all the way up to, say, $50. So they're also proposing work between Douglas, on Grimes Lane, between Douglas and Spruce. Yeah, sorry. Between Douglas and Spruce, which makes sense considering that for Durkee, they did roadway widening from between Spruce and Fraser?
Yep.
Fraser. Right, so they did roadway widening there. You know, the stretch from Spruce to Douglas is pretty narrow, similar to how the other one was. So they're proposing to do, you know, widening and roadway improvements there. They're just going to be a fair amount more extensive than they were on that Durkee development. So, you know, we had, Tom had discussed with Chris, and, you know, that's technically, from what I understand, that's a, you know, town-maintained road, and, you know, so that, all that, any proposed work there would kind of have to be approved, you know, through, I guess.
What about the entrance of Grimes?
The entrance off of Grimes?
The entrance off of Grimes, off of Foster Street?
Off of,
Where it comes in off of
Oh.
Foster, where that has to happen. That was part of the...
So that's, we've been having those discussions, and we're working out a solution. Mr. Guthrie has offered us the farmhouse. He's even offered to put a new foundation in a relocated area. so that the end of Grimes Lane can be reconfigured. It's also being discussed with the MBTA, the town. So there's a lot of moving parts on that, but it is an item that's going to be addressed by all parties.
But it has to be addressed before the rest of this, before the subdivision goes in. Correct?
Well, it's on the table to be addressed. I don't know if it's before it all goes in. I think before completion should be a good timeline, but.
Well, it has to be agreed upon that the
Yeah.
entrance of Grime Lane is
Of
going to be
course,
approved.
yes. And I'm aware that the developer has agreed to make those improvements to the best of his ability in agreement with the town, the MBTA, and all other parties, so. For the record, Dave just mentioned that you're here, so.
Yeah, I apologize.
No problem. So Dave got the.
So, there's just additional information would be needed there. There's, typical sections and stuff, so DPW can, I guess, chime in on how they feel about those proposed improvements, and obviously you guys as well. So there was one infiltration basin where there was an assumption about where groundwater was. Comment number 71.
Thank you.
Infiltration basin 100, there's a note that says they assume groundwater is 2 feet below existing grade. We requested that test pit be performed to confirm depth of seasonal high groundwater. There were some discrepancies in some of their tables for peak rates. Right now, based on the modeling, they're showing an increase to one of the design points. So I think there's just some modifications to the proposed stormwater management system that I think will need to be made to show that they're reducing peak rates to all of the design points. 102. So this is related to where this is right at the location where Grimes meets Douglas. Right now they're showing a little possible, it's called on the plan as a possible easement that would have to be taken out of it would have to be taken out of the parcel to the west of Douglas. So we just commented that what they're showing now, to call that, I guess, a possible easement, we just recommended that, that's going to be something that they're going to need to have. So we recommended that they secure that whatever easement they have to make that corner through that parcel prior to approval. 106, there were multiple retaining walls proposed throughout the project, and a lot of them are, some of them are in the right of way, some of them are outside the right of way. But we wanted to point out that, some of this, there's no design included in those walls. So there are a couple items. There's no geotechnical information. Let's see.
Geotechnical data and calculation stamped by a design professional.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, so some of that is, it appears that they'd become the responsibility of the town. Some of the ones, especially if it's in the right of way, you guys would be on the hook for that. You would own it. So as a result, we just want to make sure everything is completely hashed out for any wall that you may accept as part of the roadway in the future. Let's get that. So 113. So this is kind of, I guess, following some of the stuff that happened on Durkee. Right now, they're proposing on their temporary sediment plans, their staged erosion control plans. They're showing that they're using some of the proposed infiltration basins as temporary sediment basins during construction. So I think it was infiltration basin 3 on Durkee. There was, they had to come back in and kind of re-dig it out to make sure all the sediment that had been accumulated over.
Desoaked it.
Yeah, exactly, during construction, be removed. So we just made a couple recommendations. If the board is willing to let them go that route, that we just had a few recommendations about, to keep some of the to not excavate it all the way down to finished grade, so that, the sediment will accumulate on the top, and you're going to have to dig that out anyway to get it down to finished grade, so you'll be removing that, whatever sediment accumulates.
Okay.
Good recommendation.
So there's a couple recommendations in there, if you guys are willing to let them move forward with that, concept. On number 115, so the bottom of Fur Lane, which is, actually, I guess it's that one all the way to the left, right?
Yeah.
So on the bottom of Fur Lane, there's some drainage. There are a couple catch basins at the southern end of Fur Lane that are,
Back on Durkee now. It's actually back on Durkee, right?
yeah, they're technically on the Durkee parcel, but those catch basins pick up flow from the
K
piece, and they send it over to a Durkee infiltration basin. So there were a couple things concerns we had with that. One, it just doesn't seem to be accounted for in the modeling and the TSS removal calcs to basically show that basin, that infiltration basin on Durkee can accommodate, one, the additional flow to achieve, to maintain reduction in peak flows, and is sized appropriately to remove total suspended solids. But another concern we have with that is that if that's constructed and everything right now going to that is stabilized, you don't have a lot of sediment going there. Those catch basins will be there during construction. You have the potential to receive sediment-laden stormwater from that going over to your
completed
previously,
drainage system, right?
yeah, a system which may or may not at that time already be accepted by the town, and then you get into like, who's cleaning that out? So we just pointed that out, and I don't necessarily know how the applicant will want to, I guess, approach that. But,
Okay.
we had comments, comments 116 through 119. We just had, various comments on their phased erosion control plan. It seems fairly well thought out, but there were some certain areas we had some concerns where we didn't want to concentrate flows, or we wanted to see what the applicant thought on what their thoughts were on how they were going to, disperse the water where it collects at some of the low points. And lastly, 125, which I already talked about, it kind of goes back to that infiltration basin 4, which is part of the Durkee parcel, and the flows going to there. That's kind of a brief overview. I'm sorry it wasn't as brief as I would have liked, but that's the kind of the gist of it.
Okay. Luke, thank you. I want to thank you again, your staff and your team, for helping us dot our i's and cross our t's in these projects. I appreciate the input and the time you guys take to review these. So.
Great, thank you.
Did a great job.
Well, when this comes in the future, whatever, we have all of these ones outlined already for the majority of these, so we can address them when he comes again? Or are you gonna start addressing those right now?
No, the vast majority of these are gonna be done offline in preparation for the next meeting. I mean, as Luke indicated, there's some coordination that we have to do with the town engineer, with DPW, with various other departments.
Well, it looks like it's gone from a big file to a smaller file, so I think we're getting there. Is there anything you wanted to address tonight that you heard, or you want to just?
Well, there's a couple of key points that I just wanted to talk about to kind of get direction from the board on. And one of the primary kind of discussion points would be with respect to retaining wall design. Now, there's already a process in place for any retaining walls that require building permits, so any walls that are over 4 feet have to be fully engineered, stamped by a professional structural or civil engineer, and we need to have those approved by either the building inspector or town engineer or whomever. So we're looking to be able to go through that process, not right now, but as we get to the point of constructing those segments of road. That is what we've done historically on the roads out there today, and that's what we would like to continue to do. And if there are any issues that creep up, there are always mechanisms in place to make sure that they're resolved prior to road acceptance, prior to lot releases, prior to occupancy, So
Great,
that,
so anything over 4 feet will get a building permit,
I believe that's the
and-
applicable regulation.
which,
yeah.
which is required.
Right.
Anything under 4 feet, though, I would still have some concern with it if it's in the right-of-way, and we're
Okay.
still gonna be responsible for it. So I'd ask that anything you design that is under 4 feet and in the right-of-way, that it get reviewed by the town engineer.
And
And have
actually, the
it.
difference that we have now is that Chris is on board. I don't think he was here when we were
Right.
reviewing
Correct.
Turkey. So we do-
Just so anything that we're gonna own, we're comfortable
Yeah,
receiving.
absolutely.
okay?
So designs and locations will be passed through the town engineer, absolutely.
Yeah.
He is, ours, yeah.
Eddie? If these, some of these walls will go from, say, 4 feet, or say 2 feet up to 6 feet. You're splitting jurisdiction here. Do you want to just make sure that?
Well,
they
no,
have-
so if it's gonna require a permit, even if it starts at 2 and goes to 6, Roland will review the whole thing, our building official will do that. But if
Okay.
it's under 4, the whole length of the way, but in the right-of-way, I wanna make sure we get a look at it.
Oh, it's clear.
Yep, thank you, yep.
Yeah, so that was one of those critical items that came up that we hadn't discussed previously. With respect to, speaking of town engineer and DPW and building department review, all of the Grimes Lane improvements we're working with Chris on. We're still drilling down on a couple of the drainage designs, and those are finalizing it. But anything that is happening on Grimes Lane is obviously going to be passed through DPW, passed through the town engineer for approval prior.
Perfect.
And a key point to that is we're filing a notice of intent specific to Grimes Lane. Now, in terms of the conservation process, we're anticipating filing hopefully by a week from yesterday, next week, so that we can engage the commission either at their second meeting this month or the first meeting in April, so we at least have one meeting under our proverbial belt prior to meeting with you next time, so that we can iron out some more of these issues. Luke had spent some time discussing about the intersection of Douglas and Grimes, and that is very much under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. So we're actively trying to work all of these pieces together as we move this hopefully towards an approval
Well,
process.
hopefully you'll.
Well, speaking to that, though, I understand that the cut through the wetlands is totally under their purview. The utilities and anything that might run through there, though, once it's a road, it's our responsibility to
Correct.
approve the drainage and anything else that might run through there. So
So, yep.
satisfy them, come back to us.
Exactly. So our design is going to reflect both of those concerns, not only the surface hydrology and wetland plants and making sure that the ecology doesn't suffer,
Yep.
but then obviously any long-term maintenance, anything that the town would be taking on for the roadway, I mean, that is also of equal critical concern,
Yep.
because that will be our second means of access.
He'll need to ensure that there's support underneath those drains, so the drains can't collapse. Yeah.
Just to touch base on the possible easement while we're talking about the Douglas intersection with Grimes. The deed is unclear on the 2 parcels that are not part of this project. So there is,
For the record, so people that are,
yep, so the one to the left-hand side of Douglas, there's one single-family house lot, the other side. So I apologize, my left, not if you were standing on Douglas, so you're right. So on that single-family lot where it was vacant and now there's a house there, the deed is unclear, so our surveyors did research to figure out, what, if any, kind of access, and the title just isn't clear. As it stands right now, we're showing it as a potential easement because it potentially exists, not that we need to potentially acquire it. So all the work that we're going to be doing will be within the Douglas Street right-of-way or the Grimes Lane right-of-way, exclusive of this potential easement, because we just don't know what's going on
Okay.
there. So that's just a point of clarification.
thank you.
Do you anticipate needing that easement?
Not at this time, no. What we're doing with the road is we're maintaining Grimes as is at the intersection, and then we're trying to meet subdivision regs and geometry horizontally and vertically to essentially get into the subdivision.
Yeah.
And that's where we're creating a complicated situation with respect to the wetlands and how we engineer
Good,
around
so,
that.
so that's off the table. Yeah.
No, maybe.
Maybe. It might be there right now, and if it is, we may end up using it. If it's not there right now, I don't anticipate.
You have a workaround if it
Yes,
doesn't exist.
I don't anticipate us going after or going to approach that other parcel to secure it. With that said, I believe, as was summarized, we've done a lot of legwork, a lot of housekeeping and cleanup. There are a couple of punch list items that are not small, and a lot of them that are small, that we'll be working towards for the next meeting itself. And Dave, I don't know if there are any key points that you wanted to bring up this evening?
No, and I apologize for being late. You were touching on that Grimes realignment.
With on Foster, in the offer to gift us the house with the foundation, we pay for the movement, you give us, we'll provide a foundation, a septic for it. And then coordination with the town, I think MBTA might want to have a say in how it's done as well, for reconfiguration of that intersection. That's how I understand it was left.
How much land is included with that? 6 acres, is that right?
We submitted a preliminary plan that showed the realignment, and it realigns with the entryway to the parking lot across the
It's
street.
across the street over here,
Which
so it would come straight out.
meets the MBTA regulation of, I think, 100 or 150 feet from a crossing. Obviously provides for a safer intersection if you're across from an adjacent means of egress. And then we drafted additional parking on the Grimes Road side that would be available to town's disposal, quite honestly, because we're content donating that land for the realignment.
Okay.
I know that the town manager and the assistant town manager have been trying to deal with the MBTA. The director of, real estate for MBTA, since our last discussion, has moved on. So there's a new party there, and I think there's a little difficulty in that coordination effort.
So, that being said, there has been been included in some emails back and forth with the new individual in charge, along with some state senators, and
Yeah.
state rep.
Yeah.
So it's moving forward.
Okay. I did reach out to our reps to see if they could help, just kind of coordinate the party, but it's a slow-moving train, but
Okay.
we're committed to it on our end.
And Mr. Scott did ask a question. Could you just, for the record, tell everybody how many acres comes with that house and barn that come to the town?
There's 5 there.
Thank you.
It may get modified through that land exchange, but.
Correct. But-
Not less.
Well, depends who takes ownership of that land for the realignment. It won't be us.
Right.
But a portion of it may go through that home, which obviously would remove some of that 5 acres. There could be some on the other side of Grimes, or the other side of the new realignment of Grimes, between the current Grimes Road and the new realignment, that is accessible, but I think it's honestly better served in that potential for parking and potential for either free parking for residents or some fee collection-based system for the town, but.
Right.
I like the second one.
It's in your hands. We're offering the donation of that parcel, so.
Thank you. Great. Before we move on, because I know we're going to continue this to the next hearing, I think there's an issue that we want to make sure is on your radar, so when you come before us again, it's going to be the discussion of granite and sidewalks, and the conversations that we've had with the town engineer. I know that my recommendation was to continue the model that's already on Durkee, with granite at the curbs, asphalt sidewalks, asphalt berm the rest of the way. I just want to make sure that when you're before us, you're aware that there's other members of the board that are not going to have the same.
Who's?
So, just wanted you to be aware of where we were going. And for the record, as we move forward, I've made this recommendation, but after several conversations with our town engineer, I'm going to stick with my recommendation on this one. Moving forward, all developments, per our request of our DPW director and town engineer, we're going to be pushing for granite on all sites.
That's our regulations, and we grant waivers for those for different reasons in the past. But the way I look at it, and you gotta start someplace, and I've been upset about it for the last 5 years, actually, but the town's gonna have to take over these properties at some point in time, and we're gonna be responsible for it.
The roadways.
So this is the reason why, and it's a longevity. It might be great for them today, but it's not good for us in 20 years. And that's what we gotta look forward to. So That's my take on this. I think we had spoke before about it, once before, yourself and I.
You've
Very
been
briefly.
consistent in that position. I think when we look at sort of the bigger picture with the farmhouse and the realignment and the land, the additional parking and some other factors in there,
Right.
that was all part of the conversation. But in talking with Mr. Stoddard as well, he's of the opinion, I think, that you share going forward, new subdivisions should be consistent in that granite and concrete. In this particular case, he doesn't support necessarily that position because
Right.
it's a continuation in his eyes of Durkee
He
Farm.
supports the idea, but not as simply as attached to where you've already started down the path, but it's like life insurance. You know, you buy whole life and you're really throwing your money away by term. So now I don't want to buy term. I want to buy term now, I don't want to buy whole life.
Well, and I think it goes back to our discussion where you need to look at all the conditions of that.
I went off the rails on that one.
Well, no, at the very beginning, from my understanding, is that farmhouse was staying with the town, and it was, again, at the very, so I don't know why this town, the farmhouse keeps coming back into conversations. I thought it was a done deal 2 years ago. So I don't know why it went off the table, why it's back on the table. I wasn't privy to some of those things, so. And now
It
it's getting
never
moved.
came off.
Well, I think if you get the chance to reread the Durkee decision, it's not part of any
Durkee.
discussion that we have going forward. This is a separate discussion.
Right.
And one
Is that
we're happy
part
to
of
be,
your-
one we're happy to be part of.
With all that we've discussed tonight, is there any comment from the public on this? Please just state your name for the record.
Sean Cuffey, Grimes Lane. So my question comes when Douglas reaches Grimes Lane. I'm that abutting property. So there's a stream in those wetlands that they're proposing that road, and they want to put the Grand Canyon in with the sports on each side. So my question comes, that buffer that's there, I had to move the whole house. On top of that, I was deed restricted. I can't do anything to the land there. Now, they're proposing putting a roadway on that same land that I can't do anything on.
You're here.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted it for the record when you're talking, people know what we're talking
So
about.
my question is to the town, that whole property right there, you deed restrict one property, now you're allowing, or potentially allowing a road to go on that same wetland.
So, before my
I'll
time,
take a shot of it.
please.
The applicant has the right to apply for the definitive subdivision, that's what he's done, and you make your decision based on the subdivision rules and regs. You will also have to go to the Conservation Commission. It's the same process that went through to approve the single-family home that he's at. And it will be a Conservation Commission's decisions on that application, and with whatever conditions, approvals or not.
So the deed restriction that occurred on, I'm sorry, tell me your name again, sir.
Sean Coffey.
Sean, so this is Mr. Coffey's land, the deed restriction occurred from conservation?
Right, it was not a planning
Not
board
a planning board
decision.
decision.
Confirmed.
Okay.
So I'm asking ahead of time, I want the planning board to be aware that you deed restricted one property as a town, and now on that same piece of actual wetlands, I'm in the buffer, I'm not even in the wetlands. They're proposing a road on that exact wetlands that you deed restricted one side to.
So, not being the Conservation Commission board, what I understand, and I'm going to give you to real layman terms, is that they can replicate the wetlands somewhere else.
Okay.
So if they want to go through the wetlands, as long as they replicate it in another area, it's what I think is their right. If anybody wants to correct me, that knows better about conservation than me.
You're allowed to cross, they can't prohibit you from crossing wetlands, provided you replicate it someplace else. And they
Are
can
you
usually go
crossing
for two
when
to
you go
one.
up 300 feet up
Could you speak
wetland?
up too, please?
Certainly.
Thanks.
Since you spoke, your name for the record?
Tim Simpson, One Cricket Lane.
Thank you.
Did you hear that question?
I did not.
Is that considered crossing wetlands when you're running up 300 feet of wetlands?
That's a question for the Conservation Commission.
That does bring up the point, we actually need to get a determination from conservation, just to answer their question.
Sure. These questions will go to Conservation. They'll bring back the answers to us for the next hearing. So,
Okay, thank you.
anything else? Take a motion to continue to the next hearing?
Maybe April 5th.
April 5th.
Make a motion to continue to April 5th?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both for coming in.
Again, I apologize for it.
There's a fire delay on the phone. Were you playing golf?
Yeah.
2 days.
Never go
Hey, how are you? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. You can sit here, absolutely.
No, we were in the meeting at 6:30, so. Ryan, thank you very much.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in red.
So it's available to recreational uses similar to the open.
Yeah.
Mark, it's a definitive subdivision?
What?
It's a definitive subdivision?
On special.
What's the one before it? Special permit.
I mean, right now it's tree.
We don't have any current open, this is the next. Okay, yeah. I double checked.
This is 7:45, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're waiting.
I know, it is. And it's gonna take
From soul to steel.
It's my bedtime.
I'm not bed by 10 o'clock, I go home. You can use that, but don't.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think so. Go ahead, hit it. This house owns all
Oh,
the
it
way
doesn't,
over.
much.
Thank you, folks. 7:45, public hearing, commercial solar, special permit, 25 Water Road. I don't believe anything has to be read. Unless Mark has it. Mark has it.
Oh, yeah, the Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing Tuesday, March 1st, 2018 at 7:45 or thereabouts in room 103 of the town offices, 37 Shattuck Street, to consider the application for a special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, and the Code of the Town of Littleton. The application is for a commercial solar voltaic installation, Section 173-180 through 173-184 of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. Property location is 25 Porter Road, Assessors Map R12, Parcel 8. Owner is Hanscom Federal Credit Union. Application is Synergy Solar Inc. The applicant is seeking a special permit for the development of a commercial solar photovoltaic installation at the existing office building at 25 Porter Road. Application and plans can be viewed at the Littleton Planning Board office and Town Clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard of this proposal should plan to appear at the time and place designated. The Town of Littleton does not discriminate on the basis of disability. Further, a signed translation of this public hearing will be provided for the hearing appeared upon request by contacting the Planning Board office 1 week prior to the meeting date. Mark Montanari, Clerk. There you go.
Thank you, Mark. Well done. And before us is
Lauren Austin from Synergy Solar. I'm a project manager.
Lauren, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Um,
We're ready to hear your presentation.
Sure thing. So, basically, around last summer, Hanscom Federal Credit Union we had been talking to them basically about, they were doing renovations in their building and they wanted some rooftop solar as they were making, these repairs and upgrades to their building. So we proposed a 149 kilowatt DC system. That's 110 kilowatts AC. So that's how it's feeding. That's the amount of, basically the nameplate that's feeding into the grid when it's not basically being used. It's attached behind the meter to a breaker that's on the building's main service. The installation itself is 446 Hansel solar modules connecting to 2 Selectria inverters right on top of the roof there. In terms of visual impact, it really doesn't, you won't be able to see the installation actually from the road. You know, it's a ballasted roof rack system. Panel Claw is the manufacturer, and it's basically about, it's at a 10-degree tilt, and it's about 1.5 feet, you know, up from the rooftop there. And there's also, yeah, exactly. And there's also around about a 10-foot perimeter buffer around the building as well. And we have an interconnection service agreement already with the utility as well.
Okay.
So you're selling it back to the town?
Well, actually, believe it or not, Hanscom will be using most of the electricity, and then any residual power will be sold back to the town via net metering schematics that your municipal utility has. Yep.
Maren, with these special permits, do we require any review from the fire department? And the reason I ask that is because of the inherent danger with electricity on a rooftop and our firefighters going up there. Are they notified, one, that there is a solar on top of the structure, and two, are there provisions made, or do they review this for that reason?
They will review it at the building permit stage.
Okay,
Yeah,
terrific.
building.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a 400 square foot margin where you have to put aisleways in, don't you?
400 square,
400 square feet or
you mean like, I know there's sometimes like a 4-foot,
no, you've got your 10-foot,
Yeah.
your 10-foot margin all around.
Yep.
That's for service and fire. But is it 400 units? There's also there's a maximum that you can put in one block without having an aisleway.
yes, okay, I don't have that number exactly in front of me, but, you know, I can,
You'll need to meet that. That's
Yes.
a requirement by the.
I believe our
electrical
engineers
code.
have considered all,
It's either electrical or fire code that's captured that.
yes.
Because I see no aisleways through here, and you're gonna need them.
We'll look into that with our engineers for sure, yes, but it's my understanding that it has been, you know, built to spec per electrical code, NEC electrical code.
Right, and that would also get reviewed during the
Permitting
building
process.
permit
Building permit
process.
process.
Right, that's outside of the planning board's
So
purview.
you'll end up, you'll have to review this with the fire services.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Now, the building, these things get weighed down. They have to be,
Yes.
they're subject to wind,
Absolutely,
and that's building commissioner.
yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and yes, and we do have stamp drawings, our structural engineer has signed off, you know, on all of those
Got to
things.
review the roof underneath, make sure it's strong enough,
Yes,
and make sure that the wind won't uplift. That's all.
Right.
In other words, you gotta do his job.
yes.
Good.
Let's check.
Is there any buildings around it that these would reflect to, or is this, there's no?
No, it's a 30-foot building, no,
So there's no.
there are no area.
That would be my only concern. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I am too. The,
Okay,
I'm all about conserving energy.
the last thing, if they don't, if the electrical code doesn't require signage on the stairway going up to these things, I'd recommend that you include signage on the stairway that says high voltage, you know, only, warning high voltage, the same sort of signage you have to have around the perimeter now.
we will have that on the hatch, yep,
On the hatch, good.
yep.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, thank you, Richard. Any other comment? Any comment from the public regarding this project? Hearing none?
Close the public hearing, and there's a draft decision that Lauren's already taken a look at, and
Motion to close the public hearing? Second.
I'll second that. If you-
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Take care.
and then
Now we gotta
go
vote.
to approve.
Approve.
Oh,
Yeah, you're not done yet.
sorry.
We just voted to stop hearing from you.
So,
Where's the draft?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve it, subject to this, the special permit application that's been filled out in front of us. There's no, we don't have to worry about sodium de-icing or any of that. We pretty much,
Right, draft decision was in your meeting packets, and it's standard conditions,
Yep, yep.
signage that Rich was talking about, and
I make a motion to
removal if,
Approve it, subject to
You have the
the
clerk, you want to read it?
application that's in front of us. No, I don't want to read it.
Okay. Is that good enough?
Wait, do you-
Pending final approval of town council.
sure.
Perfect. Now you can go.
All those in favor? Well, did I get a motion in a second? I got a motion.
Yeah.
Did you second it?
I'll second it. Do,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Now you can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you.
Are we done now?
No, I guess so. Folks, if anybody's having trouble hearing us because we get into some discussion, you're more than welcome to move forward and sit up front. Those seats are...
Not at a premium. There we go.
Okay, senior residential development proposal, informal discussion, continuing the process of gathering information and guidance, providing guidance for 3 possible future applications for senior residential development. We're going to try to keep this 15, 20 minutes each discussion, so here we go. First one on the agenda would be 80 King Street, Matt Field.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jennifer Platt on behalf of M&M Realty, here with
Greg Roy, Dush Armadillos. Thanks for your time.
our engineer. We were here last meeting, and I don't know, Maureen, if you have the plan, get the new plan you can put up.
I have small copies if you don't, oh, you do.
On a senior residential development for 80 King Street. Just as a reminder, this is a 4-acre parcel. We're proposing 30 units. It has, we have done a little revisions to the plans based on your request last time. Last time you sent us back and asked that we come back with some elevations for the property, as well as better demonstration or clarification of where the open space is. So we've prepared some elevations for you. As a reiteration, this has been designed to be accessible for the elderly population. Each of these units has 0 clearance entries in the front, master on the first floor. Everything is a 2-bedroom townhouse per the bylaws. I would love you to put it.
Want an easel?
Excuse me. Thank you, Maureen. So you can see the sort of beige area is the open space, goes all the way around the perimeter, and then the larger section in the southeast corner. You also asked that, what we had before in the very center of the project, we had labeled that as open space, and you'd asked that we not consider that open space, and we leave that as sort of the backyards for the residences around it. So it's still open yard for these units in the center, but we're not counting that towards our open space requirement. It does meet the 30% open space requirement. The larger portion in the bottom corner is going to be, it is above the leaching area, but that is going to be graded and grass, so it's essentially equivalent to a large open field or a playing field, which the residents will have access to. There's also access all the way around the perimeter of the development. And I don't know that the board can see these, so I will...
We've got them in.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we've got 'em in. Yeah, okay.
So we've tried to honor the request of the board to have a varied elevation in front that has some texture and depth to it, so we don't have any long blank walls, but have tried to make it a very attractive presentation for both the community and the residents. You'll see there's also another picture in your package which shows, I'm just going to flip this for just to show the perspective from the street. We wanted the town to be aware that from the existing street, you can see the development is sort of superimposed in the back, and that's really all you would be seeing.
The first building.
That's all you'd be able to
backside of
see
that right there.
from King
There's
Street.
trees all the way around
So it's kind of tucked back and hidden, which I think will make it a very nice environment, both for the residents as well as for having less impact on the road, or visually from the road.
Right. Okay. Now, I know this has been discussed in email, but just for the record, we're showing stairs on the front of these.
We are. That was a shot that was taken of White Street, and the photographer didn't have the ability to wipe out the steps on the front.
But you could meet flush entrance.
I'm sorry?
You can meet the zero clearance entrance,
Yep,
so.
absolutely. Paver walkways right up to it.
Okay. So the leaching field is still showing a little bit into the open space. I understand that that's a conventional design. If you didn't go with a conventional design, you'd probably be able to move it so that it would stay within. You have to show conventional.
We have to show conventional to use the IA that we used up on Cooper. We're going to use the same drip line, which is smaller. It's much more reduced.
I have to say, I like the,
And the price point that we're going for.
the elevation is an improvement, so I like that elevation drawing.
And as Matt has just mentioned, these are going to be priced to be affordable, to be accessible. They are meant to be available to the elderly population of our town as they're transitioning out of larger homes, but they're going to be priced, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, in the low 300s?
We're going to be in the mid 350s, 340, 350.
In the mid 300s.
Depending upon the cost of the road. It will not exceed that.
Not to exceed 350?
350s, but in the,
Come on now.
Depending upon lumber prices, if they go up another 28%.
Well, I appreciate it.
That's the target
I like the commitment, I
pre-construction.
appreciate the target. At some point, we'll try to nail you down to a real number and hold you to it, but if we can, that'd be great.
Yep.
So I know it's a moving number right now, but when we get closer to. I see 30 units. What would be the maximum?
32. There's
32 we could
8 per acre, we have 4 acres.
And if
so
we
we're-
could get 32, wouldn't we get one more affordable?
Mhm.
31, we'd get one more affordable.
We don't have room.
We could make room. We could make room for one.
But see, that's counterproductive to what we're really trying to do here. All right, if you want to, since this is the first, since we're...
So, can you speak up, because I know there's some...
Sorry about that. We're actually doing an open space plan here. We're modeling this after our open space bylaw.
No, we're modeling this after our senior residential.
I know, but it
development
also
bylaw.
involves a 30% component of open space.
Mhm.
So the open space has to be a viable open space, not 33-foot parcels all the way around the edge again. We're back to that. It's not open space. That's just a 33-foot buffer zone. The fact that you're trying to shoehorn as many units in as you can at the expense of the 30%, that's a design criteria. That's why we put it in there, so that we weren't getting as many up to the limit. I mean, we put a high number in there because we want affordability, but we also want something that looks nice and that's functional, like the open space plans that we have in this town now. It has to look the same as the open space plans. If you're gonna call it, and you're gonna use it as open space, 10-foot, 33-foot wide buffers around the edge is not open space. So to try to get them to 32 is the wrong, my feeling, is the wrong way to think about it. It should be affordable, and if you increase the density, which is what we're doing here, we're taking an open space plan and giving them, instead of a 1-to-1 density, we're giving them an 8-to-1 density. That's enough of an incentive to give us a plan that shows workable open space and affordable units. That's the balance, and that's why we did it that way.
I agree with him.
But
I agree with his assessment of it. And again, you know, like, on 4 acres, the majority that anyone would be able to build at any point in time is 4 houses.
Right.
Correct? Providing the all perk.
Right.
So now we've turned around and given them the opportunity to maximize it out at 8 per se.
And it's not even houses, they're townhouses, so
Right.
that's
So-
even different.
And by obviously not having them separate. We're doing better with the foundations and the marrying walls and everything else. So the cost effectiveness is still very good for, for a cluster zoning type thing, what we're after. Now, granted, we put the 8 in there so that we could.
Negotiate.
Well, I don't look at it negotiating. I look at it that it allows, a large number of houses on a small area to be affordable for the elderly. I mean, that's the whole reason behind this.
Right.
It's not to, and by the way, he is my brother-in-law, so that everybody knows, and the next couple of guys are not related to me, but they're gonna hear the same thing. It's not our job to make money for the builders in town. It's our job to make sure that the town gets what it needs. And what I think it needs is something like this for our elderly is what I think it needs. But not at the expense of no more space and shoot, like his word, shoehorning it in. I mean, if you built 8 houses, that's still twice as many as you're allowed to get anyways. And the price point at $350 is, I mean, that's still not a bad price point. And for the elderly to sell a house in Littleton, everything's going for $400 for crying out loud. So it is a good price point, but I also don't think they can meet it. Less road, less expense, more open space, and still, honestly, and they're in business to make a living. They're not here for fun. And that's why we did what we did, as far as I'm concerned. So I agree with him in many respects, and I also think that the open space needs to be more than just someone's backyard.
Exactly.
That's my opinion.
Or a little walkways, 30-foot walkways.
Sir, I will get to you, so I saw your hand, okay?
I'm surprised to hear you talk like that, Mark. The bylaw says eight per,
The availability date.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
but yeah, it says 8. And that number was put in there not for a bargaining chip. That number was put in there for density. We're looking to get these houses.
Right.
We're looking to get these small houses. And not, bust someone's chops to get more. What we're
No,
trying
no, look at
to,
it.
we have a good piece of open space to the right side where the leach field is. The space around the back is what it is.
But it doesn't need to be is what it is. That's my point. This is the first one. We're setting the bar. We want something better than that. We want something that's going to have
Well, how can you
usable.
get more open space out of this?
Then you don't get 30 units. That's my point. It's got to be a balancing act.
But you can't meet the pricing point. Mark.
Matt,
There's
just let them, I'll
There's a
make
problem
okay.
with what you're thinking. Matt is exactly right. There is a balance. So what are you saying? Take off half the units?
Maybe. I don't know. You have to come up and show us the different scenarios, I think, before we sit there and say a 33-foot buffer is an intention of an open space. It's not.
This has a nice piece of open space.
That's a septic system,
But this-
Richard. Nothing can be built there. That's not really open space.
So this development, it's beautiful. If these people have some kids over, it gives them some place to play, not in the
You
backyard.
want kids playing on your leaching field? Really?
Mark,
I play on mine.
Mark, be sensible.
I'm just trying to say, when we
The-
started this bylaw,
is-
because what we do for one, we have to do for everybody else.
There's
We need to have a balance.
nothing wrong with playing on top of the leaching field.
I'm just saying, the open space has to be, if you look at all the previous open spaces we've done, and the price points and the
Sure.
houses that were done there were less.
But we put the 8 in there to get
We
the
put-
density.
We put the 8 in there to make them affordable, not for the density. Don't
gonna
make them
get Peter-
affordable.
Yes.
Affordable.
The 8 is not,
My original statement about, we got better things to do than make sure builders make money. Richard said something about the fact that, we are putting these in there, we want them to be affordable. I mean, so, I want the open space, I want the affordability. I've kind of lost myself a little bit in your two discussions. I definitely agree with you, and I kind of agree with him also, that we're here to get these places.
But not,
But not at the expense of,
putting every possible inch you
Yeah.
can in here. It has to be
so
balanced.
let's see what anybody else has to say for a few minutes.
So, before I open up to public discussion, I just want to mention that the reason I brought up the 31 or 32 is because I'm trying to get one more affordable. I'm not trying to use up any open space. I'm not trying to give anything away. What I'm trying to do is get more affordable units for our seniors. The reason that I fought so hard for this bylaw and we created it and we wrote it, was to make sure we could create something that would be affordable to keep our seniors in this town. Open space is secondary to all of this.
I disagree.
Okay, you can disagree. First and foremost is a senior residential development bylaw. Okay, we wrote this so that we could keep our seniors in town. If I can convince Mr. Field to build one more unit, and we can get one more affordable unit, then I think we're doing our job for the seniors. As far as the open space goes, I can see this works. It meets the requirement of the bylaw. If you want to push back and try to negotiate, we're going to lose price point, and we're going to lose affordable units. So in that aspect, I disagree with Mark, and I support Richard in his opinion. The one thing I would say is that include sidewalks in this, show us some sidewalks. I'd like to approach maybe somebody from the town to see if we can get access through over to the high school driveway and access up into.
Be glad to do it.
That's a great idea.
So, and I'm saying that because Nick is staring at me right now, so.
Can we add one more thing that makes sure that that field is fairly flat, that open
It is very
space?
flat.
It will be.
Where
Yeah,
groundwater
it's
is
gonna be
not
flat.
an impact.
Okay, so it's flat enough to
It's flat as a
for
pancake.
for the grandkids and kids to play ball on or something. Good.
So that would be my direction. We have a disagreement, we'll hash it out amongst ourselves. I'd like to open it up for public comment. Sir, again, for the record.
Sure. So my name is Tim Simpson, 1 Cricket Lane. So I'm naive to the rules or the regulations, but my question is, a development like this, and if you could just highlight the specs, what's the goal of the objective with regards to the percentage of open space?
So the open space is to try to give you a buffer between the.
Yeah, my question is, what's the percentage?
30%.
30%, I'm sorry.
30% of the total parcel?
Yep.
Hi, Diana Paradise, 10 Cricket Lane. Just a question, can you help to clarify what exactly affordable housing is? And the percentage of units that have to be included in a new development? And what does affordable mean in terms of, are they deed restricted? Are they price restricted? Sort of what that is, because we've heard a few different definitions and I'm really not clear.
So Maren has memorized the definition, so I'll let her.
Not completely, I'll give it my best shot. Affordable, under the inclusionary zoning bylaw, is state affordability regulations have to be met, 10%. And the price point varies each year, it is set every year.
By the state.
By the state. This year, it's about 180, 160.
187.
There you go, 187. And they are deed restricted for price.
Are they deed restricted for the entire time?
Perpetuity.
So somebody buys
Perpetuity.
it, do they have to show some sort of,
They can't ever sell other than as an affordable unit. So whatever the state sets that limit each year, that's what it sells for.
got it?
Okay.
And they have to meet some kind of requirement to be able to qualify to purchase?
Correct.
Correct.
Got it.
This is state qualification.
Thank you.
Hi, Paul Tokmakian, 32 Lawrence Street. Is there any flexibility on the senior housing for a different configuration or variety in the type of housing that's provided? I know that the stipulation says 2 bedrooms, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
But could Mr. Fields say, because my understanding of what seniors are wanting in housing is we should be providing a variety of housing. Like some seniors aren't going to want a single gentleman, widower or whomever, doesn't want to move into maybe a two-unit house. Maybe he just wants a single unit. Is there that kind of flexibility where Mr. Fields could offer 2 units that are, you want additional units, so Mr. Fields could offer double up in something, 2 single room units or something smaller.
2 one-bedroom units.
Yeah,
as opposed to
or
one
even
two-bedroom.
junior,
The affordability is what's going to start to change them from, if they're still building a large structure only with 1 bedroom in it, I think may not be as desirable for someone to.
For a hard
sell.
So,
It'd be a hard sell.
right, so, but to address that, though, there are other proposals before us that will be one-bedroom units.
Yeah.
It might be different than garden style or cottage style. It could be a barn style. We've looked at a lot of different styles in architecture.
I mean, an apartment complex looks.
You could have a garden style, you could have one-bedroom garden style. So there's ways to achieve it. I don't know if this would be the site to achieve it, but there are proposals before us that will achieve that. Okay?
How many of those units would be?
For the record.
How many of those units would be affordable?
He wants to know your name.
Oh, Mary Hunt, sorry.
I know everybody knows you, Mary, but. Okay. How many units would here be affordable?
4.
Presently, 2.
I'm trying to get it to 4. Right now, it's 3.
Oh, you need 30 units.
You need 31 to get it to 4. So, that's the conversation that I was having.
I thought so.
Yeah, so.
But the builder
Could still leave it at 30 and still get 3.
At 30, too.
Let's just to say we,
He could give us 1 and still just build 30. I have a gentleman with his hand up.
Nicholas Bates House, 28 Birch Road, also a member of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Yes, you anticipated some of my comments. For this community, it's very close to Pondside and the Mill Pond complex. It's actually fairly popular for people to walk around in those communities. It's nice walking access to churches, to the Dunkin' Donuts, that kind of thing. And I'm wondering if the consideration from the buildings down to the road accommodates seniors walking on that grade and making sure that there's good access from this down to the road so that the seniors have walking access to the road. And then, access to adjacent properties like the high school would be really great, giving people access to that open area.
it's a very level site.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marge Payne, 25 Grist Mill Road. Just a point for clarification, because I couldn't hear the young lady when she started speaking. Is this 2 stories now we're talking?
So it's 1 bedroom up, 1 bedroom down in the design that these propose.
And then did I hear the 1 bedroom is downstairs, right?
There's 1 bedroom on the
Okay,
first
thank
floor,
you.
yeah.
I couldn't hear you, so I moved, but and it's a little bit better now.
Okay.
I get one more comment.
Anybody else? Let me go to Mr. DeCoste.
Chuck DeCoste, 609 Newtown. Just a question, there's a different design that I've seen proposed in the past for this site, and I believe it's somewhere around 4 acres, thereabouts. Previously, when there was some thoughts around doing a garden style, there was some thoughts about giving some land to the town for fields or tennis courts or something on the backside of the property, which is closest to the driveway to that point up there. Is that, so based on where the location of that open space is now, I'm assuming that that's...
This is a leaching
chair.
field, the open spaces are outside this.
Understood, but...
He's talking about the fourplex up on the top corner, top right corner.
So through the chair...
We had discussions of a garden-style type building, which was extremely shut down. They didn't want apartment building type prior to this zoning change.
Is that something you?
So this is prior to the SRD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
So I guess my question, obviously, that's no longer part of the hopes and plans as were discussed previously with the developer. To give some of that-
He hasn't brought it back before us as an option or as a consideration on his end. I'm certainly happy to discuss it with him as the board.
Well,
Because garden style could get.
Not necessarily garden style, even with the existing proposal. I mean, the chairman's saying if we go to 31, we can get a 4th affordable unit. While at 21, we get a 3rd affordable unit. And then there might be some land to be able to retain that ability to create
Usable
the opportunity that was discussed previously with the developer about the need for fields. Because the town was talking to the Webbers as well to try to do something with that land because of the contiguous nature of the land next to the high school. We wanted to have the opportunity maybe to expand tennis courts or a recreational field, sports field. We don't have the ability to act as quickly as a private developer.
Right.
So there was hopes that we were going to be able to get some of that land in order to do some of the things that we wanted to do as a town.
Prior to the SRD regulations.
Asking, is there any consideration to be able to do that with this development?
Mr. Field, you've heard the,
I have. We had a design that we had spoke about, Chuck, with that, and we were told that it wasn't gonna fly in town.
What were you told that wasn't gonna fly in town?
The design that we had come forward with the apartment-style building with 60 units in it.
Wait a minute. That doesn't, oh, it must have been a meeting that I must not have been at, because I wouldn't have told you no on that.
Well, why don't you ask him who was at the meeting?
I'm not gonna disclose.
Was it one of these meetings or a side meeting?
It was a side meeting.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't have.
To answer your question, going down to 21, it'll defeat the price point that we're trying to go to because of the cost of the acquisition, the road, the septic. You just can't, I mean, you can't do it.
I don't know the numbers, it's,
I'd be glad to go over them.
I understand. I appreciate that.
Do you know what he's talking about?
I don't. So,
If, you know, with the planning board,
Would you like to elaborate on
Matt, if there's,
You had that design done. We had all the pictures. We came.
Matt, we're the planning board, we're the ones that make that decision, whether garden style flies or not.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, kind of on that same vein, we're dealing with an elderly person with slight dementia, and if all the houses looked exactly the same, they would, you would
You're
spend.
getting lucky every night.
You would,
Free meal, what are you guys thinking? At dinner time, she's going to have dinner with, oh, you people, unbelievable.
Mrs. Weber, do you have a problem finding your home on White Street?
No, I do not. They have different colored doors.
I was going to suggest that.
That is Mrs. Weber. We had built this model for her down on White Street.
If we could throw a little variety into the.
so that was on my notes, 2 colors, you could change, you could have 4 units the same color, with different colored doors, and the next 4 units a different color sign.
That's doable.
I certainly wasn't thinking about the free meal.
So if I can just ask Matt, if you would take some time and spend it with Chuck, the chair of the select committee, I'll ask that one of these members, you know, the vice chair isn't here, attend the meeting also.
I would love to.
And go over the numbers.
Yeah.
I would love to.
So,
And I'll be glad to do that in garden style. To me,
Richard,
garden
you're
style looks fine.
welcome to be the one to do it.
Okay, excellent.
How many square feet do we go with, 1,800, right?
No, these are just under 1,300.
okay.
But we permitted up to 1,800.
Mary Hunt. I'd still like to make one comment. They said that these houses would be in the 300, low 300s, up to 350,000. I wouldn't call that affordable for a lot of seniors in Littleton.
Right.
And if this isn't even meeting the criteria of getting for affordable housing, I'm not for it at all. Marge's shaking her head over there. She's been a senior a little longer than I have.
Oh, look at she threw you under the bus. Right under the bus.
Shots fired.
You're not riding home together, are you?
Oh, she shook her head when that was said. And I did too.
Right, so
We
they,
know the seniors from the Council on Aging. And I just have to make the point that 300 to 350,000 is not affordable to a lot of seniors in this town.
so,
And we worked hard on the planning board last year to get the zoning laws changed, to make it affordable. That was not it.
right. So to get that, I think the way to do it would be to switch from,
So I would not be in favor of this proposal as it stands now.
okay. So to talk to Mr. Field about changing the design and going to garden style, 1 bedroom, you could certainly meet that criteria.
I
Because,
would be at least favorable toward it, so that we would at least get 4.
Oh, and to be clear, we do meet the affordability requirement. There's only 3 required for this development, and 3 are being offered. So we're not shortchanging the town in any way.
Aware.
Chairman
Aware.
Mullen is just hoping to increase that above what would be required, but we are meeting the requirements, to be clear.
And what would the price point be for the affordable units?
187.
187, see, it's under 300.
So there would be 3 units at 187.
The 350.
And if I can push Mr. Field to one more, we'll get 4 at 187.
The 350 is for the.
Yeah, we understand for the, right.
And that's, it's,
So,
we understand.
to make that clear, the next two
Yeah, I
coming before us
understand.
are gonna come at different levels of cost too. Again, when they,
You argue
so,
Yet, you
affordability
look at the
with the
proposals for
open
other
space. They
housing
go
coming
down
in,
in
they're
price if
up
they're gonna keep
600 and
the
700.
density. If they're gonna
They
put
have
density.
space
They have to.
up the yin yang, and yet there really isn't a lot of open space here for seniors.
right.
I mean, it really,
And that's what we're gonna ask. We
comparing
need to
apples
get,
and
we need,
oranges here,
we need pricing.
and it's, we oranges are getting kind of sliced away.
Mr. DeCoste. Folks, I wanna be able to hear the people talking.
So I just want to make a comment about the affordability, and I'm glad you made the clarification. Thank you, Jim, for making the clarification that the bylaw works towards affordability of a certain number of units. It's a percentage of the development. So 10% are affordable. So if we have 30 units, 3 units would be affordable, which is why the chairman was saying, if we can go to 31, we can get 4 because we round up, it's a round up plus. So that would go to 4 units. As far as the intended price is 350s, let's say it's 350. The market will bear what the market will bear. If the developer puts them on the market for 329 and people are fighting over them and they're willing to pay 379, the developer really doesn't have any control over it. I mean, the market is going to dictate what the prices are going to be. So the intention of the bylaw was to make a percentage of the units affordable, with hopes that by design, they would be less expensive than buying a single-family home with an acre of land and 2-car garage and whatnot.
In the long term, it's also less maintenance with this type of design as well. So in all aspects, the cost of living does come down, even if you buy a market rate as opposed to an affordable.
Come to pulling your doors down. Yeah. So the idea is, what we're gonna try and do is, well, I mean, the idea would be to have a builder say, I need to make X amount of money, and once I've acquired this amount, then I can afford to sell some at a lower rate. But then someone's gonna sit there and tell us what his number is. I mean, some guys are 110, some are 140, some are $160 a square foot. That's their price point in order to sell at.
So we run with
If it be that, and let's say I need, if I make $160 investing, if you make 20%, sell. I mean, as soon as your stock goes up 20%, get rid of it. You're happy then. So if a builder is willing to say, if once I make my million or whatever the number is, I'll be willing to sell it at a lower number. But again, someone's got to, in my last statement, drop their drawers and,
The reason we went to the eight per acre was to give us ability to talk about price of the total project. Not to maximize it at 8 per acre, because that's what you're by right allowed to do. Wasn't for that, it was to drive the price down. Nobody's shown us where the pricing should come out, what it's gonna cost to do 15 units on this acre. No one said 20 units on this acre. I think if we're going to negotiate, we should start negotiating the price point of the total amount of units, not just the 10% that you're gonna get back.
Well,
That's not what the
you
bylaw
can't-
says.
you
But the
cannot-
bylaws, yeah, the bylaws increase density at a lower price to make it affordable for,
Well, that's why,
affordable.
that's why.
Right, that's why we get 10%.
What was the lady's name? I'm horrible with names.
Judy Barrett.
Okay,
Consultant?
yeah. She said you can't, if you put 2 per acre, no one's gonna show up. But if you give them 4, 6, 8, now look at what we got. As soon as it hit the market, we got 3.
Right, everybody's
Already.
rushing to
Everybody.
do this.
So,
is
obviously,
what we
we've
want,
done
so we
some
can
things
create housing
right,
for our
but now,
seniors.
again, as a planning board, we have to decide what is the best thing for the town, and how are we gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a conversation with somebody, and I said, well, what if you didn't build 40 on your acreage, on your 10 acres or whatever it is? What if you built 50? 50, or what if you built 20? You're still making more money than you would if you could only build 10 houses. On 10 acres, you can build 10 houses. If you can now build 30 houses, you can still make all the money you're gonna make on the 10. If you just did it, just 10
This is
regular
four.
houses.
This is 4 houses.
But Peter, at that,
Well, yes, the price changes, but you've also multiplied the number of structures you're
I
building.
don't want to try to rewrite the bylaw
Right,
tonight.
no, but that's why,
Because
I'm
we've
not
already got
rewriting it.
We got to approve that, well, he's in compliance with what the bylaw states.
yeah.
And again, it was under the purview of the planning board to decide
As long
what.
as it's
That's why
beneficial
it's
to
a
the town.
special interest.
No, it's a special permit, and as long as it's beneficial to the town, it's one of the criteria.
Right.
That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
We've gone over the time limit, so.
Fine, let's move to the next.
I want to move
I
to the
can-
next one.
I can help Peter.
But
Well, let's go to the next
can
one.
Here's the things that I'm gonna,
Very simple.
Richard and Chuck are gonna meet offline, Mr. DeCosta, if you don't mind, with Mr. Field, whoever else might want to be present, so that they can discuss the number, how you get to, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is there
You're gonna ask for
anything?
direction?
Yes, sir.
So, the direction.
We're also gonna talk about mixing the styles up
Yeah,
so that we can
whatever you
get-
guys talk about in that meeting, bring
Yeah.
a report back to me, I'd love to hear what we have.
Singles and
Okay.
doubles.
Great. Does anybody have direction for Mr. Field at this point?
I think-
You're looking for more open space, I'm looking for
I'm
more
looking-
affordable. Can we get both? That'd be terrific.
I'm looking for
What about a
consensus
place
from-
for them to play?
I'm looking for the
They get the high
planning
school.
board, we need to have a decision, a design criteria and, and a way to go about this. Before we keep bringing 3 people back the same time, month after month after month. We have to have we need to meet and
Well, we
discuss
just
this.
approved the application for the special permit for the SRD, so that has to be vetted. We have time to have these discussions. So while we're having the discussion, we can certainly put it on the
We
agenda
need
for
to
next
discuss
meeting.
it amongst
To
ourselves.
discuss the senior residential development and how we're gonna apply it, apply it. Okay, so the direction I would say is, if there's a way to create more open space, give us a look. If there's a way to bring the price down, let us know. If there's a way to create 1 more or 2 more affordable units on site, let us know. If it's not possible, let us know. Is that good direction?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Can we eliminate the next meeting?
The criteria as it sits now, correct?
Not with you, with the next guy.
You don't meet the criteria
I
it
wouldn't,
sits
I
right
wouldn't
now.
say you meet the open space.
You do, I just said that it meets the bylaw.
You meet the
It
bylaw.
meets the requirement of the bylaw. We have to determine whether it's beneficial to the town. It's one of the criteria that is left in our purview. That being said, one more comment and then we're moving on.
Sorry, about the open space, if it's at all possible to make the open space a little more cohesive in terms of a larger chunk, something that's a little, maybe something that's more integrated with the way you have the placement of the houses and so forth, that would be great, instead of just run around. I know you want
We just charged him with that through Mark's recommendation, so he's been given that direction.
I got an idea of how we can do that.
Great.
Later.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to the
Thank
next
you.
one. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Comes with candy and leaves with free.
Matt, just be in touch with me.
Yeah, call me tomorrow morning.
No, I was gonna say, Peter, what?
Next on the agenda would be 245 Foster Street, GS Holdings, Doug Shaw, Nordblum property update sketches. Here we go.
Bring on.
Any conversations, people, please take it outside the
I don't
room so
want
we
to
can
talk
hear.
about it.
Because we're gonna get into
We're
this.
we're gonna go into the next one, and we can have this conversation. We'll do that, let's get these people out, so you can come back. I just wanna keep it moving at this point, we're an hour
I
beyond.
will get later, but not right now.
Okay. You okay?
I woke up last night, so I was
Shaw?
All right. Anything else? We'll drop it.
Money? Yeah, it's all hundreds.
499. Did you leave? We just digest.
Doug, how are you?
245 Foster Street. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself and say it loud, because there's people that are having trouble hearing tonight.
All right. Doug Shaw, GS Holdings.
Jeff Garabano, GS Holdings.
Douglas Deshane, Deshane and Farrell.
Thank you. All right, why don't you guys give us a rundown from the last meeting? We asked for a full drawing of everything that could possibly be on site and what it could look like. So bring us up to speed.
We now have that. So what we've done is, we've kind of rearranged, if you recall the last plan, there was, the apartments were a larger scale building. We've now reduced the sizes so that they would be 48-unit apartments, independent living apartments, loft style as well, with underground parking in the middle three, if you're looking at the plan. So independent, four-story housing, those 3 units would have underground parking. We also put room for a senior center, or for the potential of a senior center.
Okay.
We did a little bit more design as far as the commercial element out front. We did a boulevard driving in so that you'd go over the bridge and then you could separate, go to the MBTA parking and then go into what would be the residential neighborhood. And then you would have access to the independent and housing units. We've offered a couple houses varying in size from 1,600 to 1,800 square feet. Also, we did just kind of a rough draft of what the potential buildings, the independent living buildings could look like.
Yep.
Yes, with another, the following page shows where the garage would be
Yep.
as well. So,
The garage parking ones will have an elevator as well, from the garage and up.
and
And then we're looking at the Littleton, which is...
the Littleton, which is the smaller of,
The proposed cottage house.
correct.
Oh, wait a minute, how come Harvard gets to be bigger than Littleton?
I know, I know.
What's that up? And then the Lancaster. So, because I have seen this already, would you just pass it around the audience so people could take a look at it?
Podium construction? Podium.
Concrete?
Garage under with the
Yes.
3-hour separation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, certainly a lot more on this site this time than the last time we looked at it.
Much more visibly pleasing than what it did look like.
This is beautiful. Hey, can I ask Doug a question?
Absolutely.
All right. Doug, any chance we can get a bike path in here that would connect to a possible bike path to the center of town? Like along the 495?
So
corridor?
that's actually the only thing that's missing out of this scenario at this point, is there are going to be walking trails around the entire community.
Yeah, the bike path would
So-
need to be about 20 feet wide.
I don't know how I'd get to the center of town, but I'm willing to do my portion
Exactly, yeah,
here,
yeah.
yes.
And we'll-
Because that's always been one of our,
I'm working on the other two.
yeah. So
Great.
this is absolutely something
Yeah.
that we've been entertaining.
Perfect.
It just happens not to be on this.
Because I get 2 of the 3. Looks like it's going to be a good, looks like it's going to be a positive. So all I have to do is
Okay.
get one more.
So here would be my first question is, can you give us an idea of the price point of what would happen in the independent living, larger units? And then, again, because of the cost of what a single cottage-style unit might be, what would it look like if you made these townhouse or combined them to be more than 4, if you could, possibly, in this scenario? And the reason I bring it up is because we heard from seniors who were saying that at 350, now again, how many units total are we looking at? So how many affordable would come out of it?
So in the independent portion, no matter what, throughout this whole project, where we've said since day one that we would go up to 15%.
Okay. So instead of being 10% affordable, you're willing to go 15% affordable?
Yeah, we've said that since day one, the first day that we all met.
That's great.
So we still
That's
hold
great.
true to that.
Okay, so we got
So-
already an increase in affordable units proposed. The total number of units whether they're one or two bedrooms, total number of units.
Total number of independent in housing would be 300 units, including the loft style.
Okay.
The loft style is essentially,
Okay, so we're
Is
looking
this
at...
what you're calling the loft style?
no, I don't have a rendition of that. That would be the independent living
So,
building within
so
it.
the cottage style, what's the price point on the cottage style?
So we'd be at 329 now that we did add a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
And up to 400,000. So 329 to
depending on
400,
whether it's a
depending if
Littleton, a
it's the
Harvard, or a
Littleton or the
Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Okay, 329 to 400.
Correct.
Okay,
So
and
that's-
if we were to talk about moving those to a different type of construction, could we see it less than 329?
Yes, you could.
What do you mean by a
Maybe a
different type of
percentage?
So if you're
construction?
saying, like, say, do a fourplex, if you will?
Correct.
So townhouse style.
Prefab.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm asking the question is because I'm trying to, again, take direction from our seniors who are concerned about the total cost.
Right.
So inside the units, what would be the number of the garden styles or the
The rentals?
independent livings, yeah?
So,
Wait, hang on a second.
Okay.
When you say rentals, out of this 1 through 50, these townhouses, the Littleton, the Lancaster, and the Harvard,
yes,
these are not rentals,
they are
correct?
not.
These are price point sales.
They are.
And your price point is from 329 to,
400,000.
okay, to 329 to 400,000.
Yep.
But if we
And
did a
there's
few
50 of them.
fourplexes, we could bring some of those down, maybe switch the mix a little bit to get some lower
Right.
entry
Yeah.
Okay.
townhouse styles.
So it's 50
We're
times.
very interested in that direction.
Okay.
29.
So the rental units,
All right.
monthly rate, we calculate that out to what a yearly cost would be? Are we looking at 1 and 2 bedrooms in these
We are,
structures?
we are.
Okay.
Majority one. Each one of these units, the independent living building units, have a total of 16 two beds, and the rest of them are one beds.
Is this building 60 feet tall?
No. 54 feet tall.
Shoot me for 6 feet.
Did, let's see,
And how is it that we, what do we got up at that, near Crossroads or whatever what's that one called up there?
The retail, no, it's not retail, is it?
It's not.
It's commercial.
It's not. It's
These
a
just
misprint.
labels.
It's a misprint. It's a, excuse me?
This one here is,
It would be part of the independent and the housing.
and that's the
four-story
60
housing.
foot, 56 feet, 4 feet tall. And the median, mode, same.
Yes.
And what's the place right on the Acton line, what's it called? Oh,
40B or the?
yeah, the 40B.
15 Gray Road? Tommy?
Omni. How tall are those? Those are,
3 stories.
those the 3?
Yeah, they're just under 70
Under
feet, I
40
think.
feet. No, they're under 40 feet.
Okay. So there's issues with the height, correct?
Yeah?
All right.
So each one of these buildings has 60 units in it?
No, they have 48 units.
So 50, so there's 250 in the big.
Yeah, it's,
The independent has 48 units.
that's right, yes.
Per building.
What about the 4-story?
That is the.
That's the
So there's
independent.
250 independent living,
Yes.
there's 50 houses, and how many lofts are there?
16.
There's 16, there's 4 buildings at 16 apiece. 64.
In these lots.
64, 50, and 250, so 364 units. How many acres is this?
34.
34 acres. And how much open space do you have? Not counting the wetlands.
Well, we have everything in the courtyards is that, and then out back,
Yeah.
so.
You don't have an awful lot of open space, in other words.
You don't meet the 30%.
You don't meet your 30% for starters.
25.
I would say that's it. So let me ask you this, so I'm in an independent unit. I'm Mrs. Hunt, I'm in an independent unit.
Yes.
And how old are you, dear?
28.
Good answer.
I'm 68 years old, and all of a sudden, my health starts to deteriorate, and I can no longer live in an independent unit. Where do I go from this facility?
To an assisted living facility.
This doesn't offer assisted living.
I know it doesn't. It
That's the
offers-
problem.
See, you're coming at us with the biggest project of all, and.
Of course.
And trying to connect all the, you know.
When we talked about this, we wanted a facility that had all aspects, from dementia care to independent living to assisted living to, this was one-stop shopping. You could move from building A, then into a dementia unit if you had to, but you still had your friends around you and everything else. You could live there. You never had to leave this site. So this just has one aspect of it, and it's really more apartment.
It actually has two aspects. So, because you are aging, going from the 55 and older houses, single houses, and
We don't
going
have to-
into the independent living, we do offer some amenities. We're not serving food, but
that's part of the
you're going to
whole
have, not necessarily, Mark.
This is nothing more than a giant.
Apartment complex.
Yeah.
Wait, could I, where does it say in our bylaw that they have to include that with this?
It has to have a medical component
Wait a
to it,
minute.
and has to.
It doesn't have to.
No.
What we're looking for is, we're looking for these things for our residents. That's what
Yeah.
we're looking for.
Okay, so
It
let's
doesn't
just make-
have to,
I
no.
believe we had this exact same
Yeah.
conversation the
So
last time.
last time, and here we are beating it again.
But
Can
we
we just
actually
make it
realized that
clear
it didn't
that-
have to have the
that-
components,
that-
and we had said, we're more than happy to get an assisted living facility on this property.
And that's what you were gonna show up
accommodate-
with today,
and
is what-
accommodate to give the land to an assisted living facility to do it, but we don't want to run
Where?
an
The
assisted
couple
living facility.
companies that we've talked to were not interested in this parcel.
Well, then, a part of
So-
our bylaw and part of the application process is gonna go through the medical facility that's gonna be involved here, so don't say that it's not part of it, it is.
Let him finish.
It's all part of it. When they fill out the application, they're gonna have to know how many doctors, nurses, what medical facility is gonna run all of this.
Yep.
It's not just an apartment complex, and that's what people at town meeting stood up and said they did want. They didn't want to use this bylaw to put apartments in. They wanted a full facility where you can age from
Age in
68
place.
years
So,
old to 90 years
On
old.
your bylaw, it says, "In the industrial district, the planning board may grant a special permit for a senior residential development that includes one or any combination of the following uses."
Right, we want the any part.
So,
Just putting an apartment complex up there does not satisfy. and
but it's more
calling
than
it
what the
into-
town has currently.
We don't have apartments, we don't allow apartments in the town of Littleton, because.
It
you're
is
using
independent
this-
living.
It says we do.
No, we
Where
don't
were you-
allow apartments in the
where-
town of Littleton.
Where were you when this was on town floor?
We've been talking about it, and everybody got up on town floor and said they didn't want to use this bylaw as a way to put apartments in the town of Littleton.
Exactly.
That's
This
what
is-
they were afraid of.
This is,
Where were you, Richard? You weren't even there. That's what everyone's fear was, that we're gonna use this bylaw just to shoehorn apartments into the town of Littleton.
this is for 55 and older.
Okay,
It's-
so,
Can I
doesn't
just
matter
speak
what you
real
call
quick?
it.
so, all right, I understand your position, appreciate your position. What I want to do is hear more from the proposal.
Listen, I'm trying to offer what I can that's viable for me and viable for the town. I understand, Mark, that you want an assisted living facility. For us, it's not something that we can run. We're not in that business. We don't do that. We can run independent living because it's not as involved as it is as an assisted living facility would be. I don't have doctors on call. I don't have nurses. I don't know how to build that building.
And that's what
So,
we want.
but I'm offering you more than you're getting anywhere else, is what I'm saying.
What do you?
I'm trying to help and offer what we can, what we see as something that,
You're putting,
What are you offering us that the other guys that are before us are not giving us? What are you?
garden style,
You're giving us another building.
Well, a campus is what we're really offering.
you're giving
We're
us
offering you
260.
village.
You're giving us 264 housing units in 64 acres, 38 acres. That's, nobody's offered us that. That's way over what we're looking for. There's no open space here. All it is.
So
just
tell me,
big-
as I came to this last meeting, I came to this board and I said, please, give me some guidance in what you're looking for. Nobody mentioned anything about numbers or anything of that nature. Yes, you guys did mention assisted living. You did mention the independent living. You did mention A senior center, you did mention,
We mentioned assisted living also.
And
We
I just said
mentioned-
that.
You
So-
said independent twice. So,
He said assisted.
did he?
He did.
I'm sorry.
so you
The
guys
point is,
absolutely did that.
it's-
But I'm trying to offer, in this commercial building, that there's restaurants that these folks can go over here. There'll be people renting them for offices. There'll be, whatever, a coffee shop.
Let me speak for a second.
Sure.
We have no problem giving up part of these buildings over here for an assisted living facility. We don't have the capacity to do it. If you can get someone to come do it, we will work with them and give them the land and do what they need
not
to
our
do.
job.
I understand that, but
So
no one wants to do it. How are we supposed to give
our
it to the
job.
town?
It is our
No,
job. It is
Yep.
absolutely our job. And in that statement, let me ask you this. If you're willing to give up a certain portion of those buildings, let's say you were to say 2 of those 48 independent living buildings, you would leave the land free and clear to the town, and we could create assisted living, memory care units. We could go out and get a third party to bring that into us. You would provide that land to...
If we could not do it for you, then we would let you do it, yes.
Okay, so if
We would leave this blank, and if we'll take a little time to fill it. If we can't, it's yours, and you guys can fill it.
Okay, so that would address some of your concerns because it would complete the campus. On
Less
top of
units.
that, we're talking about, Peter had mentioned height. Is there a chance we can take these from 4 stories down to 3 stories? Because that would definitely fall into the criteria that is in this town. We don't have any 4-story right now. We have 3-story. Our fire department is satisfied taking care of 3 stories. At 4 stories, we're not hitting the mark.
These are fully sprinkled.
Absolutely, we could do that.
So, all right, so we're talking now about 3-story.
Sure.
We're talking only 3 buildings. The loft style, I'm still okay with. You might have to relocate 1 or 2 if we end up getting those from
Right.
you somehow. The commercial component that sits out front doesn't tie into this other than as an amenity to the people that are going to move here, and for that matter, anybody else going to the train station and anybody traveling Foster Street. I think that is an amenity to this whole setup. I like the idea of the parking for the MBTA because it is so overloaded. You're actually providing more for the town outside of the senior residential development. So you're hitting the mark, in my opinion, all the way around, now that you've told us that 2 proposed building lots might belong to the town, or if you can't provide it, you'll give it to us so that we can seek it and provide it. Cut the height of the buildings down. You've given us 3 different options for cottage-style living. We talked about maybe changing that to condense them so that we can get more affordable, or the cost down, because the cost would be affordable in the build.
Correct.
Excellent.
1 second.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I will tell you, I'm new to this team, so I have not had the benefit of the previous meetings, and quite frankly, have not had a lot of time with the project. With respect to assisted living, as opposed to a separate facility, would the board consider if there was a way to provide health services, like an on-site medical facility that could provide in-house services to the
The
people?
lady's already given you her answer right next to her. She's shaking her head no. No, that's not what the seniors want.
No, it's a
Well, what I'm
good question to
suggesting
ask.
is, if there could be a medical facility on site here, the staff of which would actually be able to provide.
You need a whole building. You need to,
I know
you need to go
what
from
I know what
phases.
assisted living facilities, I
Right.
know what you're saying. I'm just asking
No.
if that would provide that higher level of service to some of your independent living facilities.
No.
That way I'm living in my apartment, but I have my nurse come in, I have assistance with my
No,
meals.
no.
Okay.
Those
Just a
ladies
question.
answered it for you.
Just a
Those
question.
ladies aren't on the board, we are.
Just a
And that-
question.
I appreciate the question.
Second question, and again, based on very little time here. Personally, I feel this idea of creating a village with multiple aspects of your senior living, combined with commercial facilities that would service not only this project, but the greater neighborhood. And of course, I agree that the parking is an integral part of that. Because you may find, ultimately, there may be some non-seniors here that appreciate commuting and the train.
That's right.
That said, from my perspective of the world, permitting, I see what's would happen here is that this would be permitted as a major commercial project, and that the components of it, the housing components of it, would be permitted under your senior residential bylaw. Is that?
Yep.
Because, as we know, although your senior residential bylaw does allow for some facilities, commercial-type facilities, I don't think it's inclusive enough to allow this. So this would be done as an major commercial project, and the housing components would be permitted under your residential senior. Is that the board's thinking in looking at this as a?
We haven't got that far yet.
So,
Okay.
but you brought it up,
It's-
so I'd like to have that discussion. And the parking in the commercial component, they stand alone, although they can be used as amenities to this development, well, more so the commercial. The parking is an amenity to any of the commuters that are in dire need of it. So it would be, of my opinion, that if you wanted to propose the 23,000 square foot commercial building and the parking separately for standalone permits.
Then we would do a commercial subdivision, which essentially carve out the commercial piece out front, because we're in the IA zone, so that commercial building, as
It's
long
by
as the
right.
right uses are in it, that could be permitted
It's by right,
straight
yeah.
there. The parking lot would be permitted as a separate commercial activity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the remainder, whether it's in one or more lots, would be done pursuant to a special permit under your senior. Or, quite frankly, your major commercial project special permit says that as long as it's an allowed use, as these senior units would be, that special permit, the MCP special permit subsumes all of it.
We haven't got that far
See,
yet.
Mark, you would absolutely need to be careful about how many uses or what kind of uses you want in the commercial component, because you want eateries and you want groceries for people
Well-
to stop and.
Well, it's not allowed in
Richard,
that
they
use.
have to be the uses allowed in this
Right,
zone.
and so that's not, so restaurant use is allowed. I don't know that grocery is, so I don't think grocery is, but restaurant isn't. For the time being,
Yeah.
in this commercial component, if he puts in, he's gonna build a commercial building. He can only fill it with what's allowed.
Well, he can, then we should
And
give him a.
if you wanna, he can go to the ZBA for variance down the road.
It needs a mercantile element in it.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but we can't grant that.
It's not our job to tell him what he
Right.
needs.
So,
I got a
Our
but
job
the
to tell
parking
him
in the
what we
commercial, if you want to
and
apply
give
for
it-
those,
We're-
I don't,
I know.
I have the floor again.
I'm not opposed to accept it. Richard, absolutely, please.
Doug, is it possible to get any condos? Sell some of those apartment units? A building of just condos?
Well, if we went to townhouses in lieu of the cottage styles, those
Then you could sell those.
those would be
Yeah,
for
we
sale.
will
Those would be
sell
for
those.
sale.
Yeah, except that,
And we get the price point down on them.
well, except that those would still be a higher price point than an apartment.
Well, there
Hard telling, not knowing.
There are people that will rent as well. I think you'll see a number
Oh,
of people renting there.
This
so-
place will be gone before it's built.
I think you're right. So, I guess the direction from what I've heard is show us open space, give us some, reduce the height to 3-story, show us what the two of those buildings as, just label them assisted and per town, and then show us what townhouse would look like. But yeah, get it, and then I know Nick has left from the bike and pedestrian team, but show us the walking path, show us the bike trail that Richard's asking for.
Yeah.
Along 495, but
Yeah.
again, granite and sidewalks are gonna be required, guys, so be aware, we're moving forward, that's what we're doing.
It's the quality, yeah, and it's the bylaw.
But I think it's a good second swing, guys, I'm gonna open it up to public comment before we let you go, though. Anybody wanna speak to this before we move on to the next one?
We got,
Tip.
Again, Tim Simpson. I just want to make a general comment, and probably is the wrong form, but I think the idea of saying that 10% of minimum threshold for, affordable housing, I mean, I think in the words of Diane Feinstein, those are crumbs. I mean, 10% is, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
It's probably not the right form, but
No, it's a good
I think
conversation,
10%
but I
is
want you to hear
ridiculous.
what these gentlemen said. They offered us 15%.
No, I appreciate that, but that's why I'm saying, I think 10% where the deal we talked about earlier, the one we're gonna talk about next, I just think 10% is absurd. And I think that should be taken up and addressed, because, those are crumbs, only 10% is affordable. For the seniors.
It's a state,
That's a
it's a state regulation that we voted on.
There we go. I will make a comment following up on what you said. $329,000 to $400,000. If you go in here in the little cottage, townhouse, whatever you want to call it, and you spend your asset for that, and it's gone, and you need a nursing home, how are you going to pay for it?
Selling what you're in.
Pardon me?
You're selling that condo.
But that's not what this is
You're
all
out of
about.
money.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Now, I worked Mass Health for 38 years for the state, so I know what's going to happen. We are really not addressing affordability.
so with 15% affordable on, what was the total number of units? And somebody want to do that math?
364.
300
It won't be that now, that we go
We
to
just-
three
we just-
stories
we
and
just
two
wrote that.
buildings are gone, it wouldn't
So-
be close to that.
Right, so,
Be at least
And you-
200.
if you're
At least 300.
thinking assisted living,
15%.
are we dealing with a facility that's going to be under state management? And we have state regulations to deal with? That's a whole new ballgame. And I work for the state, so I know exactly what you're in for.
You're going to be the person that'll have to run it.
Can you say that in English? Does it sound a lot like we're screwed?
so 15% of this total is something that,
It's close to 50.
yeah, I mean,
I'm just making a comment.
but if we're going to get.
We will
if-
get a lot of people from out of town coming in.
No, but if we get 35 affordable units out of this, that's a good number of affordable units.
That would be a good number.
Designated for residents of Littleton.
25, I mean, he's offered up
That's still a
15%,
lot of
so
money.
329 to
For
400, but it's what the market will bear. We can't control the market.
I know.
And that's gonna be the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So, but he's already, I mean, in this one conversation, a second time at bat, he's already reduced the number. He's given us the model we want. He's got two components that he can do by right. So I want to make sure we give him direction, so when he comes back, he doesn't sit there and get the same browbeating he got tonight.
We need
These
direction ourselves.
two-story
That's the problem.
townhouses.
We need to talk about it amongst
Two stories.
ourselves as well, so we can
Which?
tell them where we're going.
Nope, they're single.
Then I
You
would
can
like
tell
to. I
you
would-
can tell them where you're going.
We all need to be on the same
Well,
page. We need
have to
5
come to
votes.
consensus. That being said, if that's the case, Mark, then I would like to ask my board to have a meeting where we can discuss this. So, outside of our next planning board meeting, if we can get together and have this discussion, I think we have to get together on the 12th with the selectmen, and maybe after that, we can adjourn that meeting and join somewhere else and have this discussion. So,
We have to have it in
We'll
an
do it
open
before the
meeting.
12th.
yeah, well, we'll,
So
Can we
let's
do it
just
next
post it
week?
as the last item on the next meetings.
well,
Yeah, the next
so we're
meeting's
open
not-
to, we're open to public comment now, so
Yeah.
you guys have got some direction, I'm just gonna give it to a quick public. One quick question, I got you, I got you. One question, you?
So, just to be clear, I have direction. We are going now to file within the next 30 days for the commercial element in the parking. Just so that there's no surprise when we come in next week, or next month, that everybody is aware of what
That you've
what our
applied for those
intent is
permits,
to
yeah.
do. And we'll
Perfect.
revisit the plan,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do.
We'll keep looking for an assisted living facility to jump in there.
Okay,
All right, we'll keep working our end to see if we can get somebody. If you guys know of a couple people, I know you can't say,
well,
you
we
can't directly tell us,
Right,
but
so,
somebody,
let me go to the comment, please.
Nora Lally Graves, 15 Cricket Lane. I just want to clarify something that Peter said, and it might have been in jest, but with the affordable housing units, is there actually a restriction for current residents of Littleton to buy those units? Is that something that's possible to implement, or is that just a sort of?
No, it's against state law. so-
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah, and that's a good question, we wish we could.
What I would say, under the favorable conditions that may occur at the time of applying for
You can
applications.
actually,
Have a preference.
these would be considered local initiative units. These would not be 40B units.
No, they're not.
I understand you can have a percentage of a preference. You
Right.
can't say all 100% of them have to go to Littleton residents, but I believe we've seen a percentage
Yeah,
that
and-
you can earmark.
And especially where you're above 10%, then you can do some percentage, but I don't know what that number is.
Don't hold it to me, but I believe we could go as high as 70%.
Well, you're gonna come back with these guys. You're gonna bring me that information.
You're gonna hear a
Because this
lot.
is new to me.
You're gonna hear a
All right.
lot more from me next time.
All right, well, I look forward to it because you're gonna bring that information
Mark,
for
I
us.
did hear you.
Okay.
I heard you.
All right.
I have some ideas.
Who else has
I have
comment?
some
Anybody?
No, let's move
I
on.
have a question.
Please.
Been Marge Payne again. I'm interested in the senior center, but I'm not good on square footage and size and everything. That sounds small.
14,000 square
Is that
feet.
big?
It's a mid-sized grocery store.
What's a mid-sized grocery store?
Let's see, I'm trying to think of what I built. So,
Half a Donald's,
yeah, half a Donald's.
Half a Donald's.
maybe a little more than that.
That's small.
You could line dance.
I'd say that's right.
It's
But, you
good
know,
size.
you
14.
think about think about the cafeteria, the multi-purpose room down the hall here.
Mhm.
Can only fit
It's
100
between,
in there and we
it's
can't.
it'd be about twice that size.
Well, yeah, but we need twice that size for the functions that we have now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Marge, these guys would love to talk to you, so give them a call.
No, I mean, you know,
It's a
reality
great- it's a
says
great
we're, we have 100 people and we have to turn people away now because the room won't allow us to have, you know, we
Right.
can't accommodate.
Right, no, I think it's a great point, and have a discussion with these gentlemen. I think they're
We need
looking
more
to,
space than that, I think.
they're looking to accommodate, so.
You know,
Barbara, right, Councilman?
sorry, Barbara McRae, Coughlin Road. We're kind of interested in of course, what's happening, because we're seniors, and also, one of these days, we'll probably downsize and move into something, so we're going to be paying attention to everything that someone brings forward. But we also are interested, because we're very involved in our seniors here as far as senior centers are concerned. And this is one of our things, our goals right now is to make sure that somewhere along the line we get a senior center. If this is the size, we may need a second senior center downtown or something, but we are getting more and more seniors as time goes on, and we do give functions where now, this coming week, we have 100 people coming to a luncheon, but already 110 signed up, and we have to turn people away. So we kind of look for a place that we can accommodate the seniors that are going to come in from town, going to live there, and since you're so close to Boxborough, some of them will come too,
Right.
so. And probably move into your housing area there. But anyway, that's the only reason why
Just
we
answer
said.
that, in 14,000 square feet, you could put 250 people in and not even feel like anyone's in the room.
Well, yeah, but we
It's a
gotta-
big space.
Yeah, we gotta
well,
have offices, and then you gotta have other rooms for other functions.
exercise rooms and.
It's big, it's big. That being said, the gentleman behind me,
Paul Turkmanian. That senior center, is it something that your agency is managing, or is it something that you're leasing to the city to manage, or how's that?
It's beyond that town.
you could gift it to,
We're proposing to gift the site to the town.
Perfect.
Not build the project, not build the building?
That's,
Sure you can.
it's all part of the negotiation. I do think that they could, I think they could do it. If there's no more, there's two more.
Just a comment, I think it's a great plan. The only thing that's missing is assisted living.
Okay.
There should be a building, but the rest of it seems fine to me.
Thanks.
By a building for assisted living.
Yeah, Cindy?
Oh, I did, hi, sorry. So.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry, Cindy Napoli, Springfield Drive, Littleton. The senior center, from the information that I've gathered in the past, they recommend 5 to 6 square feet per senior. And if we figure a growth of 2,500 seniors, which is a modest increase, for the town of Littleton, the Donahue Institute projects more like 3,300 seniors in Littleton by 2030, it would be about 12,500 square feet.
So we're way over that.
So we meet the requirement. That being said, they could also, in lieu of, do other things for us, so. We can discuss that.
3,000 times 4 square feet of gross. 15,000.
Doug, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Oh, it is impressive.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, Doug, what's your number, phone number? Yeah.
All right, the last agenda item of the evening. Cricket Lane, Jones Field. We have
I'm gonna give you a call, okay?
Steve Kennard in front of us tonight. We also have his plan.
All right.
Let me
Thanks,
find it.
Oh, I'll text you, okay? Doug, I'll text you.
I know it's in my package, but I shuffled it so many times that
I haven't seen it.
Actually, it's not updated information.
Okay, it's the same? Can we bring it up?
Perhaps. I will, I'm certainly looking for it. Steve, did you send this to me, or did somebody else? Was it directly from you?
I had sent it to you originally.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Help me find it.
So, Steve, if you don't mind, for the record, who you are, and then tell us about your proposal.
Steve Kennard, 15 Orchid Drive. So the proposal that we had brought forth at the last meeting has not changed. The time, since that last meeting, what we have done is we tested the soils for that same conceptual design, and the testing went extremely well. Actually, we knew the soils were good, but the soils are more than great over there. And when we did the testing, we didn't just, dig random test holes throughout the site. We tested what we feel is the pinpoint locations of where each individual private septic system would be located. And based on those soil testing results, it would be no problem at all to complete the design as proposed. And in fact, there is room to fulfill the bylaw to its max, which would be 48 total units, but that is not what we are proposing. We are proposing 31.
With 48 units, how many affordable would go to the town?
My understanding is 4.
And with 31, how many comes to the town?
My understanding is 4.
Thank you. I wanted that for the record. So, you have an opportunity to propose 48 units, yet you've decided to keep it at 31, which just pushes you over the limit to give us 4 affordable units. The hard question of the night, which seems to get a lot of pushback, is what's the projected cost of these units?
So,
Selling price point.
selling price point, when we came, essentially 450 to 525. My job 7 days a week is selling real estate, and a lot of the work I do is in town. My professional opinion on what these are worth are much closer to the 500 range than 450. And I do know that, the goal is to make things affordable. And I think that there's always a challenge with, if we build these, and even if you take $100,000 off and sell them for $400,000, then ultimately it's not the builder that dictates what the value of the building is. It's really the market.
Right.
So if we even sell them more affordable, then
I'm
people
going to show up and buy 3 of them.
people are just gonna people are gonna buy them and flip them.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, we can project what they're worth.
Yeah.
But, the builder doesn't decide what they're worth, it's the
What the
market
market will
does.
bear. Okay.
That's very important. I'm glad you made that clear. Yeah.
So, when you left last time, you were given direction to find out if we could bring the cost of construction down to make it more affordable. The market bears it. You probably shouldn't try to do that. You're proposing 31, that gives us 4 affordable. Do we have that, Maren? There we go. All right, let's talk about design. We've got a road coming in, a big circle with 6 houses in the middle, all independent septic system. We've got stormwater management areas. We've got a buffer all the way around for the open space. Any comment from the members of the board?
Horrible open space, start off again. Having a little buffer all the way around the edge is not really open space, it's just exactly that, a buffer. More usable open space, more contiguous, as was said earlier. You got you got way over the density, so I'd like to see usable open space. Sorry, I mean, that's open space, that's not open space, that's
So-
just a buffer.
I think what Mark keeps pushing for is a new definition of open space.
No, I'm not. Our open space is defined.
Right.
That's not open space, that's a buffer.
No, what Mark is trying to do is say, I don't want to see any building going on in town.
Oh my God, absolutely not, Richard. All I'm trying to say is if you're gonna build an open space subdivision,
What you're trying
make
to
the
do
open
is-
space usable.
But this
What you're
is,
trying to do is get them to eliminate half the houses so you can
No.
have a field.
No,
That may be the case in some instances.
yeah,
But-
not everything that comes before us, Richard, is
They don't have to,
desirable.
it's not our job to make sure he makes a shitload of money.
The first thing
Or
is,
somebody else, excuse my French.
thing we're trying
Our
to do
job
here-
is to get something for the town, for our elderly,
that makes sense.
but
that makes sense for the town, for the elderly, and for the builder. That's why we came up with the numbers, so that they could, it's not so they could stick every square inch of house on a piece of property. That's not the issue, as you well know.
well, we're talking about housing. That's the first and most important thing out of this bylaw.
The reason there's open space in there is to be creative as to how you do it. If we didn't care about having open space, we wouldn't have nothing
This
in
is
there.
designed for elderly. What is elderly going to do with open space? They're going to use it for their grandkids.
Well, at least they're gonna have it to use for the grandkids. Maybe they'll put a swing set out there. Maybe they'll be,
There's a lot of active
They have a nice-
seniors. There's a lot of active seniors.
elderly
that do
people
that.
don't walk around, Richard?
All right, you guys have argued this every single time it's come up. Let's move on.
I just want to quickly bring up a visual, since we're all looking at it on the screen, and make sure that the line, the property line is kind of challenging to see there. So it's not just that green bump up top that is open space. The line is kind of camouflaged.
I see it up in the back.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we can all see that.
What's this, stormwater management area? That's what you're saying is open space?
Above that, into the trees, as well as around. And as far as the buffer is concerned, that is something that wasn't in the original open space design. That is something that we brought back after feedback we received from the abutters. So previously, we didn't have the buffer going all the way around. And
I
based
just
on
want
the
to remind everybody on
feedback,
the board that they also have a host community agreement with
go.
the selectmen
Yeah.
that charged us with coming
Nothing
up
I
with
did.
an acceptable senior residential development.
They what?
They've charged us with trying to come up with a senior residential development with this developer.
Who's done that? The selectmen?
Yes. Okay. We've heard from people. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment? Please.
So it would be great to get that schematic back up there on the big screen.
It keeps going away. She's trying, so.
Yeah, it's nothing I did. It's the
Paul
connection.
McMicken, 32 Lawrence Street. This is the same schematic that he presented previously, and I was hoping that he would bring back something that was a little more creative than he's done. I find this appalling for that neighborhood, that kind of schematic. There's no integration with this development with the rest of the neighborhood. I walked that neighborhood yesterday. It's a beautiful neighborhood. This is just the same kind of development that's been placed in Littleton previously, where you're just plopping, you're doing a cookie cutter kind of development, plopping it in the middle and saying it's good just because it fits it hits all the right bells on the regulation. They've got to do a better job. There's got to be some inspiration with this kind of development. Unlike the other two developments that are not as integrated into neighborhoods, this is going to be special. And Mr. Kennard, you've got to do a better job integrating this with the rest of the neighborhood. Do you mind if I come up to the board?
Please, but before you continue, be kind, polite, and respectful.
Absolutely,
Please. Thank you.
absolutely. So if it's at all possible to integrate the open space between here and the development here, where people can walk, don't have to walk all the way out here and then come down to Cricket Lane and then walk down here to get out to the lake. You know, pull in, have a path that comes through the development this way.
So there is access from Cricket Lane. You don't need to go down Spectacle Pond Road to access Cricket Lane.
Okay.
This entire, and that whole left side is all frontage on Cricket Lane.
No, I respect that, and it's got trees that are planted in it, but having the backs of all of the, it's like a fortress. It's like the backs of the houses are facing this. You know, it's got to be better integrated. That the people coming out here to Cricket Lane should be able to, you know, walk across the street and then go out to what's the development across the street and walk over there, or vice versa. It's got to be better integrated. I'm really not happy with this, the way that it's just kind of plopped down there, and it could be
Just so I
better.
understand, I'm not quite following though. I'm not quite following, so you were asking for access from Cricket Lane so you don't have to go up Spectacle Pond.
Well,
and I'm saying that entire left side.
But he's saying the
is
back of the
access.
houses are facing Cricket Lane, and it creates, if I may paraphrase, unwelcome feeling if you're on Cricket Lane looking into the development. So I think some of the direction he might be saying, and if I may, can you get back up here too? No, you can't. And Steve, if I can, just say that if we took the 6 houses out of the middle and placed them outside of that, expanded it, and then put the road on the outside perimeter all the way around so the houses faced out and were incorporated into the rest of the neighborhood, you might see a different perspective. I mean, if you could take the time to hand
Yeah,
sketch
could you
it.
repeat that?
Yeah, take the road, put it all the way to the left,
Okay.
turn all the houses around, take the 6 houses out of the middle, place them elsewhere on the site, so now in between all the houses becomes the open space. And the road goes around the whole property and comes back out to Spec Pond. So you do more like a U as opposed to, I don't know what you want to call it. So I'm just trying to get him to give it a different look so that he can see it, and if he thinks it's worthwhile, to maybe come back and satisfy some of the concerns of the public that have been expressed tonight.
The road will be in everybody's backyard.
Well, it wouldn't, because it would still be on his property, and it would be the buffer to the open space.
That's what people are gonna see when they go.
But they're gonna see the fronts of the houses, and instead of being the backs of all the houses, they're gonna see the fronts of the houses. And a road doesn't have to be prevalent, it'll be what it'll
Be
be.
another street.
But
Yeah.
they'd look out and
Yeah.
see their road and Cricket Lane. It's just another perspective that is worth looking at,
It's
in my
good.
opinion.
I think
Tim,
Ed's
you had
onto
your hand up.
I was just gonna ask, I'm a visual person, I'm having a hard time understanding your suggestion to him. Could you show it up there?
I can.
I think he's onto something.
I mean, I understand removing the center houses, but
Right.
what are you saying with the road?
So this road, see these are septic systems here?
Yeah.
Just behind that, if this was the road here, and now you come around like this, obviously things would push in a little bit. You'd have open space here, you'd come around, and you'd come back out. And then you'd have open space in the middle, you'd have all the houses facing out, and you'd have a community in the middle that could assemble outside of just the owners of the parcels of land here, but people would be welcome from all around. That's a way to look at it. It's just a suggestion, hoping that if somebody comes up with something even more creative, I hope.
They added a lot of pavement. They added more road,
Nothing's
right?
perfect.
Well, let's ask.
I'm just looking at the pros and cons.
Please.
Don't yell at me.
Stop talking.
So, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
My first question for Mr. Crowley is, you just mentioned the open space would be perfect for the grandchildren of the people that were there. It's my understanding that the open space is actually for the town, everyone. Is that true?
It is absolutely, it's available.
So I think suggesting that we design it in a way that's perfect for the residents, the senior residents that would move in there is not is not really the right way to look at how the open space should be designed.
I'm not trying to be disingenuous. It's, that is one use that could be, that space could be used for, and it would probably be the primary use, unless it were big enough to put a field in.
Why do you suggest that it would be the primary use?
Because it's not big enough.
Well, because I'm old enough to move into one of those things, and I'd have my grandchildren over and play with them in the
But I
field.
would say, you know, I guess my big question here, one of my questions is that everyone keeps talking about what would be good for the town. And I keep wondering, well, who is the town? Certainly, it's clear that the town is the seniors that we're paying
Yeah.
attention to for this. But I would consider myself the town, and everyone in that neighborhood the town. And so I would say, you know, all this open space that will abut my house, I would hope that it would be designed to be with me in mind as much as the folks that would move in there, and as much as the people that would walk around, so.
My apologies if I've misled you to think that I want to reserve that just for the residents there. I agree with you 100%.
Okay, that's great to know. My second question would be for Mr. Kennard, and that would be that when this was presented to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen reviewed the potential plan, they made their decision not to exercise their right of first refusal based on a plan that you provided that had 22 houses. And then within 7 days of them agreeing not to exercise that, the plan was increased to 31. So it seems to me that that was not the spirit of what was presented at that Board of Selectmen's meeting. That was not the spirit of what everyone sort of said to you and your father when they said, really, the HCA doesn't have any teeth to protect any of the abutters. It doesn't do much, but we're going to rely on the integrity of Mr. Kennard, and we're going to rely on his reputation to really keep what we're discussing right here in these meetings. And then, almost immediately, you increased your plan by 40%. So can you speak to that?
Before you answer, I have the chairman of the select committee here, and I'd like to give him an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Ms. Manningham. This proposal was presented to the Board of Selectmen during the negotiations of the host community agreement. We did see a drawing with 31 units on it. The 22 units that were presented it was asked of the developer to, by the neighborhood, essentially, to, what are these units going to look like, and can you bring us a concept design? They put together a better concept design than, frankly, I think we anticipated on the board, and came with 22 units to give a feel for what it could look like. During the whole process, we reiterated the fact that they could potentially put 48 units on there, and that was very much part of our consideration during the negotiation. And this plan, it wasn't a bait and switch. The 22 units that were presented at our meeting with the neighbors present at our public hearing was, frankly, a concept design. And a concept design isn't necessarily what you end up with. It's just something to show people what it could be.
Would you
Along with what the proposed cottage-style units would look like.
Would you agree that the neighbors and the members of that community, sorry, would you agree that I think that the sense of the neighborhood that was clear, certainly to me, and maybe I'm misreading everyone else's experience of it, was that the jump up to the senior housing of 21 units was a large volume change from just conventional development. So I'm surprised to hear that the 40% increase that was presented to you guys as part of the HCA agreement was never mentioned to the neighborhood, because it felt that the neighbors had expressed pretty strongly that the volume was already a concern to them. So I guess there's nothing to be said about that, but I'd just like to say that it's disappointing to the neighborhood that was clear to the Board of Selectmen in the process, and that was brand new news to us in this process. My third question is...
Mr. Chairman, if I could just reply to through you to the speaker. I agree. with you that it's disappointing. However, we could have ended up with 48 units there. We could still end up with 48 units. And we negotiated in good faith. In the 31 units, it wasn't definite that we were going to get 31 units. We expressed an interest, we negotiated back and forth, we tried to restrict it, but we had some challenges with being able to do that. We were able to negotiate in good faith, and that's...
Thank you. So I can tell you that I was there on the 22 who presented. I had conversations with select members, with Mr. Kennard and his father. And then that next meeting before us was 31 units. I panicked. I had just saw, I was like, it's not what I expected. Through conversations talking about affordable units, there's a good reason why they jumped from 22 to 31. It gets the town one more affordable unit. That's what they were trying to do, is provide us with more affordable. So when we talked about it, again, for me, this is to provide housing affordable for the seniors. So if we can talk about changing the concept and making it more appealing for the neighborhood with 31 units, that's the direction I'd like to go, because I understand now that they're providing us with one more unit for affordable unit. So that's the perspective that I have.
And that affordable unit would be $187,000, even though the rest of the units are $500,000.
Correct.
Okay. My third and final question is, one of my concerns with the 22 and now the 31 is that there's 31 separate septic systems in that field now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that field, as you know, serves as the water source for everyone that has a private well that abuts that field.
I don't think that provides the water for the private wells. The field is the field, and I'm sure it leaches water through it. But to speak to the quality of your water and what's going to occur to anybody that has a well, I know they did testing, and everything that I've heard back, which gets reviewed by the Board of Health, is that the soils were amazing and that there should be no issue with anybody's quality of water.
But I thought the testing was done for the Littleton Water Department, which was the public water source. I mean, I don't know that, how would I know? Like, are you going to come test my well particularly? Yeah, like, this is a private well, so.
I think he's talking about the testing they did.
The testing that they did, the soil
Not
testing
the
that they
elderly
did,
testing.
Okay.
is good soils. Again, this is outside of our purview because it's Board of Health. So from what I understand from the testing that they did on their soils, all those holes that they went and dug, which were pinpointed to where a septic system with this design would potentially end up, all tested really well. The soils are great. It should be able to satisfy the 31 septic systems with no issue.
And if all of a sudden there was a water quality problem for an abutter that had a private well, is there, who would be, who would you be able to sort of find any recompense with? Anyone?
You'd have to ask the Board of Health because it's not in our purview.
Okay. And the wells, I mean, the septic systems that are being built here, are they built on?
Again, it's the Board of Health's purview.
Well, no, this is actually a question for Mr. Kennard.
Well, you can ask that question at the Board of Health meeting when he's for review there. We're talking conceptual, we're trying to give him some direction on which way to go. The septic system is not a subject that we can address as a planning board. You're outside of what we're allowed to talk about.
So the building of these houses and the septic systems, the size of the septic systems isn't a discussion for you guys?
They're all two-bedroom systems.
With 175 gallons per day or 210?
Again, falls under the Board of Health. Please keep it to what falls here and under our jurisdiction.
Okay, because the gallons per day is a senior housing residential.
Restriction.
Right.
It is, but you've had the floor for a while. I just want to
get
get it moving, so. Can we move on?
We can. I'm sorry. I know that we're the last item on the list, and, it wasn't our fault that we didn't start till 9, so I'm sorry about that.
Would you like to address this?
It will be designed to senior flows.
So that's 175 gallons per day.
I don't have the reg in front of me, but it is to the senior flows.
And that. Okay.
Nora Lily Grace, 15 Cricket Lane. I had a question based on the last planning board meeting, which I watched on CTV. When this was brought, this design, the same one, was brought before the planning board last time, there was some discussion about the fact that 30% open space was a conservation easement for the town or whatever use, but that it would not include drainage ponds or septic systems. But I see drainage ponds on the open space, and that wasn't addressed. So are conservation easements allowed to have drainage ponds? Are they not? From what I heard from Maren and the LCTV, they weren't. But that hasn't been addressed in this plan, even though it was brought up last time, so I'm trying to understand.
So I think the reason it hasn't been addressed is because it hasn't changed from the last time, because he was looking for more direction, because he knew that there was going to be pushback on the road design. So before you go changing what is there, he wanted to get more direction from us. I believe.
But there isn't any sense on whether that is the case or not, if it's allowed to be on easement land or not.
So retention ponds are not allowed on conservation.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand.
Well, I should say that they're allowed on conservation land, but it doesn't count to the open space. I'm sorry about that. So,
Okay.
please.
Hi, Diana Paradise, 10 Cricket Lane. A comment and then a potential suggestion. With respect to the Board of Selectmen, I think we all feel a little bit of a bait and switch going on here, especially if this plan had been presented to the Board of Selectmen and we went through 2 Board of Selectmen meetings with quite a bunch of discussion, quite a number of comments. I think there was quite a bit of feedback from the town, the abutters, about how we felt about the field and how we hoped that the town and Mr. Kennard would be good stewards of the field as they went into construction. We're also very well aware that the Kennards are in the business of construction and making money, and we're not saying that that's not appropriate. The increase from 22 to 31 is pretty significant. I also understand what the town's trying to do. They're trying to get more affordable housing for our seniors, and that's admirable. I would suggest that Mr. Kennard could accomplish that same objective, if that's really what you guys are really wanting, and that's what it sounds like. You really wanted to get from the 22 so you could, to the 31 so you get that one additional house. My suggestion would be for Mr. Kennard to take a look at that original plan of 22 houses, figure out how you can get an extra house in there, let Mr. Kennard give that extra affordable house. That gives a win-win, I think, for everybody. Mr. Kennard still makes his money with his development. The town gets their additional house. You're talking 187 grand here, and you're going to put 9 more houses here just to accomplish that one goal. I think there could be a middle ground here that we could work with that original plan, make a few tweaks to it, because I think there's also enough room for open space. Get your additional house, and at least give the neighbors a little bit of satisfaction in knowing that the town actually listened to us and that we didn't feel like we just got the rug pulled out from under us. Because that's pretty much how we feel right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Taking our advisement. There's one more gentleman in the back, please.
Rob Hartz. I am 7 Barron Way, which makes me a near neighbor on the top of the map. And I am also president of Spectacle Pond Association. And for the past 20 years, we've been spending a lot of time in protecting not only the pond, which you would see just on the very left side of that. Spectacle Pond is just, 70 yards from this. And underneath all this is a major aquifer, which is not only the private wells that we just mentioned, but it's also all of our town water, not all of it, but a good deal of it comes from the Spectacle Pond aquifer. That, what we're looking at, is a major recharge area. This town counts on rain coming through, going into the aquifer. We already have some problems with quantity of water right now. What we see here is a lot of asphalt, a lot of houses. It's going to compound that issue. So therefore, I want to just, again, go back to what Diane was saying, that I think a smaller thing will help with that. I like what the gentleman said there, is there's a chance to be more creative and also a chance to really acknowledge that the neighbors have worked very hard in helping to shape this. We want to continue to be involved with this discussion.
Okay, thank you. And if you want to speak to that, welcome them to be involved in.
So in regards to the aquifer, my understanding is that the gentleman from the Littleton Water Department had already confirmed that any development on this particular site would not affect the drinking water source of the town.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to say that I had made a suggestion regarding the road and maybe giving it a different concept in a design look. Does anybody have any other suggestions to the design itself that we're talking about with either 22 or 31? I just want to talk about the road and the access. I know that, I believe Cricket Lane is a private way, so they don't have access to that. But were they to gain access to that, would it make it a better usable lot for open space? And just want to hear from the public before we close it up.
So I'm curious with regards to Cricket being a private lane and how you might do that. And I bring up the issue with regards to how Mr. Kennard's subcontractors have already been accessing his property in order to service it. I mean, they've already had his lane clearing contractor driving down Cricket Lane just because it's convenient in order for him to get in. It addresses with regards to the integrity of who we're dealing with. We've already got the bait and switch with the 22 to 33 up to 48. We've got the issue of he's not communicating to his subcontractors that that's a private road. Please don't use it to access to do my Kennard business just because it's convenient. Even the way it's proposed right there, how would the public access the public way, public space?
So I would think they would access it by walking off of Cricket Lane and onto the property.
But it's a private road, so
Does he own frontage?
So you can,
why would you
It's a
encourage the residents to use a private road to access the public space?
no, it
I'm
can be
saying the residents of
accessed,
Cricket Lane can walk down Cricket Lane.
What's that?
The residents of Cricket Lane we were talking about, or are you talking
No,
about
I'm
all
talking
residents?
about the public accessing the public space, Mr. Kennard.
it can
Hold
be
hold on,
accessed,
through the chair, sir.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
thank you. It can be accessed from the, from Spectacle Pond Road, or the proposed development, we are proposing that it would be a town-accepted road. So you would have access point with the new town-accepted road as well as Spectacle Pond Road.
Do you have frontage on Cricket Lane? This property?
This entire side is frontage on Cricket Lane.
So you actually
So,
have rights to that right of way?
No, that's Victor's.
It's a private way, they don't own it.
By having frontage on it doesn't include it?
Private way.
Huh?
No, he doesn't have rights to it.
I do believe that there may have been some other house lots on Cricket Lane that
Were encompassed in this property at some point in time?
had nothing outside of this entire development.
Yeah.
I don't know this for certain, but I do believe there may have been some new construction within the last 10 or so years that has utilized the frontage on Cricket Lane to create a building lot. So I don't know what that says for our ability to try and use Cricket Lane as
That
street
one out
frontage.
back?
Told you.
Well, then that throws it into the preview that it is a public
Still
way.
doesn't.
If I may.
One moment, we're just having a
Can
discussion,
we-
but I'll get to you, okay?
Can we?
Mark, were you-
Hold on, we're having a
I
conversation.
know, but we can't hear the discussion.
It was something that really didn't have anything to do with what your question to him was. It was just something, a decision we had made earlier about a house further back in it, and so that's what that was about.
So I have a question for the board. Is anybody aware of, can anyone confirm what I just mentioned?
We A&R'd a lot off of Cricket Lane a couple of years ago for a resident that had 5 acres there that had a building lot that was sharing her driveway off of Cricket Lane. We allowed them to come off of her driveway using Cricket Lane as her access point for another lot behind her house. Nothing on Cricket Lane. So that's all we did.
Please, again.
Yeah, just to let you know, Cricket Lane is a private way. The piece of that road is an easement right that one of the Cricket Lane residents owns. I think her family years ago owned all of it, over the years subdivided, over decades and decades. That is a private way. The residents are granted an easement right of way to get to their residences, but it is a private way. It's been a private way. We all discovered it a few years back when we almost lost the ability to have plowing done. We pay out of our own pockets quite a bit of money every year. It's rather astounding to have that road repaired so that we can then petition the town to plow it. But it is unequivocally, without question, a private way.
How does it read in your deeds? Right to use with others, is that how it states?
Right to pass over.
I think some of the houses have deed restriction information on it and others do not.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we're given direction as far as the road goes. Any more comment?
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm Norla Grace. You asked about design input. The problem that I see is that there really isn't any way to change that design without changing the density. There's no way to fit a different road in there with so many houses. And if the overriding impulse above anything else, above any impact on the neighborhood, any impact on the seniors living there, who in my mind would feel like sardines, is to have that one affordable housing unit, and this is the only way that we can see to do it, no splitting units and singles, doubles, anything like that, just this, then I just don't understand how else to organize it, because it's all crammed in so tightly. If we could take those houses out of the middle of the cul-de-sac and shrink it down, maybe put some trees in the middle of it, I think that would help. But then you're down 6 houses, and there's just, I can't see how you can have both.
What about townhouses where you connect 4 together?
Then we get into a different style of development where you
Yeah,
get
it's a
shared.
different, if it's a different style, but it would break it up.
It's not that we don't have ideas, it's just that it's not workable with the density that you guys are wanting.
So I think we've heard a lot. Can you make it real quick?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I think we do have some great ideas, and I think, again, the initial plan that was presented, at least, I'm not going to speak for the neighbors, but I mean, I think the initial plan that was presented at the Board of Selectmen meeting with the 22 is at least something that we can think about and work with, because if you look at the way, may I approach the?
Please.
So if you look at the way that was structured before, and I know that there was, I think the concern was that all the property lines came all the way to the edge of Cricket Lane. But the way it snaked around this way, with no houses in the middle and 22 houses, it would seem, again, if the board is willing to consider going back to that plan with some modifications, given that if your real goal, if the original thought was the 22 units, but the real important goal for the town was to get that additional affordable house, there's got to be a way that we can work together to even look at that original plan again with the 22 houses, and even if the cul-de-sac, which I think was a very small loop in that original plan, it was enlarged a little bit, to Nora's point, to add that additional affordable housing lot, we at least have the buffer, which we were all hoping for. We have open space. There's still the integrity of that original plan, and you get the house that you want. Assuming that when that plan was presented by Mr. Kennard, he felt comfortable that he was going to make enough money, which again, I know isn't the objective, but we also have to be realistic that, you're also balancing that. But if that was sort of the good faith presentation that we sat through for 2 meetings, and you really want that extra house, there's got to be a way to modify to be able to get it to be a win-win for everybody. And I don't know.
So before that, I just want to remind everybody that it could be 48 units under the bylaw, and we've got it to 31. It's up from 22. Just want everybody to be aware of what the numbers can be, where we are, and what you were shown. I'm sorry that anybody feels like there was a bait and switch.
30%, right, you have to take the 30%
I think
off the
we're
top.
all here. I think we're all here for the same reason, right? We want to make sure we're doing right by the town. We want to make sure we're doing right by
Pick 10
the
acres.
abutters, and we want to make sure we're doing right by the seniors. And honestly, you got to make sure we're doing right by Mr. Kennard, because he's not building this out of the goodness of his heart. He's got to make his money on it as well. But I think there's got to be cooperation and understanding, and as you say on the board, that respect that we all want to work together to make it happen. We're willing and we're able to make that effort and have that time. been to every single meeting, except for one. So, planning board, board of selectmen, we're all here. We come to these meetings, we're here to give input, we're here to work. We don't want this to be, for animosity, but, we also would want to make sure that we can bring some creative ideas that we think will be a win-win for everybody.
Please.
May I ask,
Through Steve.
what, oh,
Through me.
I'm
Just
sorry.
didn't have to, so, go ahead.
Okay. My question is, just so I understand, what is the large benefit that you perceive in making that alteration?
The large benefit that we perceive is the fact that we, as residents, for the last, 5 months, had really been working to try to do whatever we could to conserve that land and keep it as open space. That falling short, we wanted to be able to work together to figure out the best solution that would give a residential neighborhood feel, that would keep as much open space as possible, so it felt like a residential neighborhood. And I think with the presentation of the first development, we were still a bit shell-shocked because, we got a field, now we got 22 houses. But I think what happened in the meantime, in coming to a larger development like this, was we're losing, we've heard from Mr. Montanari, we've heard from, folks on the Board of Selectmen. We're trying to also preserve open space while being able to have meaningful appropriate development.
All right. I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Steve, thank you. Everybody, thank you for coming tonight. We've heard all of you. Steve, I think you've gotten some more direction from us. You've gotten input from the public. A different road. One of the things I would also add to what we've just heard is that to make it maybe feel like a more part of the neighborhood would be to see somehow if you could get access off of Grimes Lane to incorporate the development you're proposing
No, we
into the
can't.
neighborhood.
Cricket Lane.
I'm sorry, Cricket Lane. I'm sorry, it's late now.
Right, he can't- but anyway, it's a private way.
He can try to get permission, is what I said.
All right.
And
Anyway.
May I just say that, just so we're all clear, any deviation from this plan, if we do that, would mean that basically all of the testing we've done, we would have to do that exercise all again.
Maybe,
Not so much necessarily.
You've done that much testing. You know what that site's like.
Right.
But
You've
anyway.
tested 31 lots, you know what you get.
Yeah. So you don't.
It's not gonna be that much different. That being
Anyway,
said,
I agree, we have proven consistency,
yes.
but we have also been told that we need, every single exact location of a septic was tested and needs to be.
Okay,
Well,
and we'll get there,
that's-
because this
that's
is just a conceptual, so
that's
if you
at the
took it,
purview
if you
of
tested
our
it,
board.
it's your own
It's
risk.
their problem, not ours.
And
All right,
let's
at this
move
point,
on.
I'll
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
no more.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.